All right, hello everybody, and welcome to day 2 of the DATAcated conference, February 2021. Super excited to be here again. We had a really amazing day 1 yesterday where we focused on extracting business value from data. Today, it's all about exploring the trend in AI and machine learning. My name is Kate Stachny. I'll be your host for today. I am the founder of Story by Data, DATAcated Academy, and more recently, the DATAcated conference. Have been having a really great time these past couple of days prepping, and yesterday actually hosting day 1. Really looking forward to all of the speakers on day 2. And just like yesterday, if you missed it, I definitely want to start off by saying thank you. Thank you so much to our sponsors, Data Robot, ThoughtSpot, and Pyramid Analytics. Another huge thank you goes out to all of our community partners. We've got Lights on Data, KD Nuggets, Data Literacy, DATAcated Academy, Data Science Infinity, Business Science, Team Data Science, Story by Data, Super Data Science, The Ravid Show, and Pact. Next, definitely need to thank all of the amazing speakers, because without the speakers, we truly would not have a conference. And similarly, without our audience, we would not have the need to put any of this together. So I'm truly thankful for everybody who's joining us right now. I see the comments flying in, and I'm, again, trying not to look because I will get distracted. Before I kick things off and introduce our keynote speaker, I want to just remind everybody to go ahead to storybydata.com if you have not done so at some point today and officially register for the conference. Registering for the conference means you'll be able to win some really cool prizes. You're going to get recordings of each of the sessions from all of the 3 days, and you're going to get an email with some virtual goodies. So what can we expect from day 2? Well, like I mentioned, today is all about exploring trends in AI and machine learning. I'm actually going to go ahead and remove my screen, and I want to introduce our first speaker. But before I bring her on, I just want to let you know, as you're joining, you use the little clap emoji if you're having a good time, if you're happy to be here, because that just lets all the social media platforms know that this is an event that people should join. And also leave some comments, introduce yourself, let us know where you're tuning in from. And yeah, basically use the comments all throughout the day, because that's one way that you can network in this virtual environment. All right, our keynote speaker for this day is Cindy Hawson. She's going to talk about going from hype to value, how ThoughtSpot customers are putting AI and machine learning to work. Cindy is the Chief Data Strategy Officer at ThoughtSpot. She's an analytics and BI thought leader and expert with a flair for bridging business needs with technology. She advises top clients on data strategy and best practices to becoming data-driven. She influences ThoughtSpot's product strategy and is the host of the Data Chief podcast. Cindy was previously a Gartner Research Vice President as the lead author for the Data and Analytics Maturity Model in Analytics and BI Magic Quadrant. She's also a very popular keynote speaker. Prior to joining Gartner, she was the founder at BI Scorecard, a resource for in-depth product reviews based on exclusive hands-on testing, contributor to Information Week, and the author of several books. I'm personally a huge fan of Cindy and her work, and I truly can't wait to bring her up onto the virtual stage. So without further ado, here's Cindy. Hello, Cindy.
Hi, Kate. So what a long biography. Is that what happens when you're in the same space for more than 20 years?
Possibly. I'm so honored that you're keynoting here today. And I know time is short, so I will hop off. But first, I just want to let people know that as long as they comment and ask great questions throughout all of your sessions, they have a chance to win the ThoughtSpot Timbuktu backpack. So guys, get commenting. I'm gonna hop off stage and let you take it away, Cindy.
Great. Thank you, Kate. And I'll also say I'm a fan of Kate's, and I just love the way that she has bravely taken on doing these events live, real time, really to enable us more authentic communications. It's a little scary. We're hoping the internet doesn't go down, but I love the way you can comment in real time. So Kate, thank you. Thank you for doing this. I'm joining you from beautiful, snowy New Jersey. Yes, 3 feet of fresh snow over the weekend and snowing every day this week. You know, as I look back on 2020, how did your year go? Did you lay out your plans in January and say sales will increase, headcount will increase, it'll just be a great year? What happened, really? Maybe not so much. Maybe it depends on the industry you're in. For some of you, it was about changing plans quickly, pivoting fast, workforce reductions. But for those of you that were leveraging data and analytics and making these investments earlier in AI and cloud, you were pivoting faster, performing better. For example, Canadian Tire. Now, if you're not from Canada, maybe you don't know this brand. Some have described them as similar to Walmart in some respects, in that they sell a lot of products, both in store, in person, but through e-commerce. Bicycles, fitness gear, barbecue grills, fishing equipment, a lot. And they invested in ThoughtSpot early. So in the early days of the pandemic, they could already see the signals, the trends that were so radically different. For example, bicycle sales increased 189% in the first few weeks of these COVID lockdowns back in March and April. And leveraging data and analytics, retail, we know some are struggling. They did not make these early bets in digital transformation and in data. And there's questions about how well they will survive going forward. And yet the benefits, Canadian Tire, so their e-commerce business up from the latest quarter reported 132% year over year. Their store sales, both in person and e-commerce, 19% year over year. So this is where those that invest in data and analytics early are weathering this crazy economy much better. Now, some of you might say, oh yeah, but Cindy, that depends on the industry. Of course, we're working out more in the pandemic. What else can we do? We can't even travel. So push back on me on that, always. But let's look at Clarity Travel, a business travel agency in Europe, in the UK. And for sure, in the early days of the pandemic, revenues plunged. But there was a massive demand for data. The executive team had more questions about working capital, margins, resourcing requirements, and the demand for data, as they say, hit us early on, and it's just kept accelerating. So their head of information management, Darren Williams, talks about how having these data-driven insights using search and AI lets them answer all these new business questions. And even though so many travel agencies and airlines have been hard hit in this pandemic, data helps them navigate better, faster. And this is really what AI and analytics is all about. It's cutting through the hype and actually delivering measurable business value. So I'd like to share with you, as you look ahead to 2021, what are the plans you should be making? What are the top trends that I'm seeing across all the industries, across the globe, all the sectors? And more important than the trends themselves, it's what should you do about them? Today, because we just have a few minutes, 15 minutes, I'll talk about the 4 most important ones that I want you to act on and lay your plans here. The first one, the fight to survive outpaces the fear. And oftentimes I talk about how culture and technology are really 2 sides of the same coin. Do you have a culture that is risk averse, afraid of making bold ideas, or where good enough is acceptable? And if anything has forced you to think differently, I do think the pandemic has changed things. Would you have imagined a year ago that you could go to a full remote workforce? Or maybe your company said, no, we don't support remote work, and you went work from home overnight in a matter of weeks. And those of you in manufacturing are not able to do that. You have to bring people into the work environment. And would you imagine the health safety that you would have to rapidly test for? So according to 451 Group, 80% of the organizations said that the pandemic has enabled them to make lasting organizational, technical, and operational changes. This is key. So as you look ahead, I want you to be bold. Don't let that fear hold you back. Really, it's about fighting, not only to survive or get through this, but really to be best in class customer service, best in class operational efficiencies. So be bold, use your imagination, achieve what you thought before was impossible really is possible. I like this quote from one of our customers, Darren Petraeus, Vice President of Analytics at First Command Financial Services, serving our military. And he said, never let a crisis go to waste. He actually used the pandemic and the fact that business as usual was not possible anymore to say, we need to stop developing dashboards that take 3 weeks before we even get to a dashboard, and that is meaningless as soon as we deliver it because we have so many new questions. So he challenged the status quo, stopped the old legacy processes, and was able to bring search and AI analytics to his organization. I also want you to accelerate your cloud plans. Why is this? This is about the speed of innovation. It's combining analytic workloads with data science and data warehouse together, and it's doing more with less. That's what all of you are being charged with. Now, just a few years ago, most of your data was on premises and you followed the data gravity. In fact, in 2016, Gartner estimated that the cloud only accounted for 7% of your data was in the cloud. They've accelerated that projection to now where 2/3 of the data is expected to be in the cloud by 2024. And many of you are still saying, we don't even have a strategy. Where do we start? And it can be overwhelming. Do you lift and shift? Do you redesign as you move to the cloud? And what about the skills? Learning all these new technologies, whether it's Amazon Web Services or Snowflake or Data Vault, Google BigQuery, all of it. It can be overwhelming. Start with the first 1%, whether it's your 1% of data, your 1% of business value, your 1% improvement on operating efficiencies. But always keep that bold vision in mind. You're working towards that. It's accelerated, yes, but start. Learn the lessons, learn the technology, upskill the people, rinse and repeat. It's less overwhelming this way. The next trend, organizations who leverage external data will outperform their competitors by double digits. If you follow me on social media, I think you know I love my chocolate. Hershey's, a great example of leveraging external data to navigate changing buying patterns. And they were using new data sets, COVID case counts. We didn't even have that a year ago. COVID case counts, but also human mobility. So this is a new data set that shows where are we buying our chocolate. We're consuming more at home. And ahead of the busy Halloween season, recognizing that trick-or-treating would not be the same. They were able to pivot their supply chain. And the net benefit, 5.5% increase in year-over-year sales, outperforming competitors, at least in North America. And net income rose. Why is this? What does this really mean, or what's happening? So many of you have focused on your internal data only. And I get it. It makes sense. Start with what you can control. And yet you're still struggling to unlock the value of your internal data. But your internal data is the lagging indicators. Your sales is telling you what happened last month. Orders is telling you what's coming. And maybe at best, for your leading indicators, you're looking at web traffic or social media. You need to move to faster, earlier signals for better forecasting. This might include alternative data types like job hiring trends. And I don't mean what governments publish that are a month after the fact. This is really pulling data from job sites like Indeed or LinkedIn to say what are the hot growth markets, either by region or by industry. Or it's looking at COVID case counts and human mobility, particularly when you're pivoting your supply chains, having to deliver goods, optimizing it. So bringing in these earlier signals. Don't take my word alone for this. Pioneer visionary in our field, Tom Davenport. If you think about machine learning, how many of your models were rendered useless because you had so many zeros? Tom says trying to model low probability events in a highly disruptive event, it's requiring a greater use of external data. And external data will provide an earlier warning signal. The next trend, data science loses its luster and is no longer the sexiest job of the 21st century, as Tom Davenport and DJ Patel wrote a few years ago. And now, wait a minute, I know many of you are data scientists or aspiring data scientists. Don't tune out. Hear me out. What's happening? I hope you also listened to Ben Taylor from Data Robot yesterday. Ben cited that 75% of AI projects fail. And there was a really good debate on LinkedIn then, how do we define failure? Research from MIT Sloan put the number higher at 85%, and the way they're measuring it is based on return on investment. So fail fast to learn, yes, but no business value, it's unacceptable. What's happening? Why? I think as an industry, data science, we've touted that it's the sexiest job, the highest paying job, but we're only teaching and emphasizing too much coding. Yes, we need the math, but too little business domain expertise. We need to change this. We need to actually embrace low code or no code, so low code platforms, whether it's Data Robot, Data IQ, or for the business analysts, the data analysts, and the non-analysts, the no-code platforms like ThoughtSpot, which will leverage the AI insight automatically. So de-emphasize the coding, emphasize business domain expertise so we can find the value, deliver the value. And all of this, foundational, we need the communication skills. The communication skills mean listening, what are the opportunities, but then also communicating the value using skills like data storytelling. For those of you that are a dashboard developer or a data analyst today, for you, it's about bringing the joy back to your job so that you really have an impact on the business. A large portion of you said you're working as hard as ever, but you can't keep up with the demand for new insights. I encourage you to listen to Scott Peck on the Data Chief podcast, who has turned his dashboard developers into analytics rock stars. They really are more business champions and love their jobs. The last trend, you know, at ThoughtSpot, we talk about our purpose is to create a fact-driven world. But when I think about the use cases, I've often said HR is one of those forgotten children, usually prioritized last, unless you're maybe in a professional services industry. And if we look at the racial injustices of 2020, I hope this will not just be a footnote in history. I hope that data will better expose the wide gap in equity, but more importantly, be used to drive and empower change. And I applaud Gannett, for example, the owners of USA Today newspapers, sharing their diversity metrics, but also recognizing they have data gaps. They were not tracking things like racial diversity, age diversity, or Starbucks taking it one step higher, further, tying executive compensation to achieving these diversity metrics. And NASDAQ most recently has proposed requirements for multiple types of diversity on a company's board, or you will not be able to continue to be listed on the NASDAQ stock exchange. So when I think about these initiatives from these leading companies, to me, this is why a fact-driven world is actually a better world. And this is an opportunity for you as the data and analytics professionals and leaders to drive change in your company, but really making society a better place. So I think if you follow these best practices, these top trends, I look ahead to 2021 and I'm predicting, hoping it will be a better year, powered in part by analytics and AI. Kate, let me know, what are people saying on LinkedIn or Twitter?
Hello, Cindy. Thank you so much for providing this really great overview of all of these trends. You're getting probably 400 or 500 comments and questions coming in, and I know we have about 3 minutes, so we'll take as many as we can get. Anna's saying she's loving the real world examples. Sandra's also saying true, love the examples. Very interesting study. Really, really great feedback here. We did have some questions. Grace said she had the privilege to test drive ThoughtSpot during the hackathon. Great tool. She loves to search and type analytics. Going to some of the questions now. Let's see. Question here from Brian. He's asking, how do we ensure the data we're using, either internal or external, is not biased towards one group or another?
Yes, I love that question, Brian, because let's be honest, all data is biased. All data is biased. It's about recognizing those biases and accounting for it. So in ThoughtSpot Spot IQ, we actually let you remove certain elements. So let's take zip code, could be biased or a proxy for race. So being able to remove that from your AI generated insights is technically possible, but you should go into it recognizing all data is biased.
Yes, absolutely. I had somebody say that on my talk before, and I'm like, wait, what? And we had an hour-long discussion just on that topic. Thank you. So Sandra says, thanks for mentioning the importance of diversity and the benefits of it. I agree. Really, really great that you mentioned that. More comments saying that, they really love the examples and the trends. And then a question here from Kimberly. She's asking, how can we get more directors of data storytelling within organizations? Is data storyteller the new sexiest job?
Well, so I love that, Kimberly. Thank you. I do think data storytelling as a skill is required. I think the analyst of the future is the sexiest job, and the analysts of the future are great storytellers. And with anything, start small. Practice with one use case. Is it supply chain? Is it diversity and inclusion? Apply those data storytelling techniques to that. And if I can, again, recommend a podcast, listen to Donald Farmer on the Data Chief and listen to Miko Yuck tomorrow here on DATAcated.
Yes, she'll be here. Absolutely. All right, let's see. I think we have time for maybe one or two more. Larissa says, does anyone else feel like genuine communication is one of your company's least used assets? I believe we all think we communicate well, but when we take a step back, it's usually lacking the listening piece, which rolls into a miss on the solution. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so it's a great point, Larissa. And interestingly, somebody said to me, what are your greatest skills that you only just realized? And one of them is listening. I would often think I'm too quiet, but there's a great book, if those of you parents read it a long time ago, How to Talk So People Will Listen, but How to Listen So People Will Talk. And I do think we've underemphasized this. Digital communications, in a way, make it harder because we're so quick to post that Slack message, fire off that email. And I do think get comfortable with the silences and you will hear more what are the true pain points, what's going on.
Absolutely. I love that. And I think we have time maybe for one last question. Since we're talking about trends here all day, is there any way you could jump on a trend before it gets hyped? It's a tough one.
Yes. Well, do you want to be leading edge or bleeding edge? But I do think, having that first mover advantage, this is where we talk about AI-driven insights and search. Is it still early? And I say it's mainstream for the most innovative companies. Like our ThoughtSpot early customers were Walmart, Verizon, Hulu, so rich in data, or in Europe, Nationwide Building Society. So spotting the trends, placing small bets, changing the people in the culture is still the hardest thing. So that's where I'd go back to start with the 1%, have your big vision. Some of your small bets may not pay off, but that's where starting small, it's fail fast. You'll decide what you keep and what you don't adopt.
Awesome. I love that. Thank you so much, Cindy. So at this point, I'm going to take myself, hop off this virtual stage and let you take it away with our next guest, Alana.
Yes. So I'm pleased to introduce everyone to Elena Russler from Schneider Electric, Head of People Analytics Transformation Manager from beautiful Nashville, Tennessee. Elena, welcome.
Hi, Cindy. Thanks for having me. It's great to be here, and I'm excited to share my insights on how Schneider Electric has utilized ThoughtSpot in the past few months.
I am too. So I have to ask you, Elena, you're from the country music capital of the world. Are you into country music?
Great question, Cindy. I actually do not prefer to listen to country music. I'm a transplant into Nashville's country music culture, but it is a wonderful city full of music everywhere you go, and that's a really lively place to live, so it's a lot of fun.
Great. Well, I look forward to visiting you when all this is over. But Elena, many people listening may not know Schneider Electric, even though it's a global brand, huge company. Tell us a little bit about Schneider Electric.
Yeah, great. So Schneider Electric is a global specialist. Like Cindy mentioned, we're represented in over 100 countries across the globe, and really we work on energy management and automation. So our overall purpose and mission as a company is to empower all to make the most of our energy and resources. So I'm also happy to announce that we recently were named 2021's most sustainable company on the Global 100 Index that's done by the Corporate Knights company. So that is a great award for us to win, and it's really measured on a few different areas, including our percentage of clean revenue and investment, our energy and carbon productivity, as well as looking at our diversity metrics as well, including gender diversity in our executives and also including racial diversity. So that's a little bit about Schneider.
That's great. Thanks, Elena. So green energy, sustainable energy, love it. And as you just mentioned, diversity, a lot of organizations, I said, they don't start with people analytics. And yet this was Schneider Electric's first use case. Can you tell us a little bit more about this?
Yeah, definitely. So Schneider Electric just brought in ThoughtSpot with a pilot project in North America that was released this last July, and I had the pleasure of leading this transformation of our HR community to bring data and insights to their decision-making processes. So we brought in ThoughtSpot with the ultimate goal of having a tool that is easy to navigate and puts the user experience at the #1 priority, and then fulfilling unique requests. So we are a global company, we are a global HR department, and we have our core BI tools, similar to many of you out there with different dashboards. But what we were missing was that ability to fulfill those search type analytics for all of our HR communities. So this is really bringing in a tool that brings that self-service to all frontline HR people. So all of that work no longer just resides within the analysts, but now we're empowering all. And then our last goal there was to ultimately free up the energy of our HR community. So Cindy, you mentioned it earlier, we are all being challenged with do more with less and creating more efficiencies while also driving more value in our strategic initiatives and our business decisions. And so we brought in ThoughtSpot to help do that with our analytics and putting data at the forefront.
Yeah, that's great. And you know, we talk about BI adoption rates. Are you allowed to share, given that you just went live in June, what is your BI adoption rate now with ThoughtSpot?
Yeah, so we set out with a very ambitious adoption rate that's really disrupting what our current processes are. So I'm happy to announce that within 6 months of bringing ThoughtSpot to our North America community, we were able to reach 78% adoption across our workers, which is it's awesome to see. And if we compare that back to our other most used products at Schneider for HR community, we're looking at a range from 33 to 48%, depending on the tool. So with ThoughtSpot, we've really accelerated that adoption rate, and we are happy to announce that we're expanding globally to be completed by the end of 2021. And our next region in the company will be Europe. So we are quite excited for that scale up.
Yeah, that's awesome, Elena. 78% adoption rate. So I can tell you from my time at Gartner NBI scorecard, the industry average is barely 33% and tends to the lower scale. So congratulations on that. That's a huge metric for your team, but also for you personally. What's been the impact on your job?
Yeah, so over the past year and a half, I have been a people analytics consultant, which is my role is supporting the head of HR for North America and the wider HR community in that region. And a lot of the work is putting together that data story in terms of our metrics and our important KPIs and a lot of ad hoc reports. So I think many people out there that are also data analysts can probably relate to that long list of backlog that you have on enhancements or requests. And bringing in ThoughtSpot, I dedicated a lot of time to the training and opening up an environment where people can learn. And now for my own role, I've decreased the hours of ad hoc requests by about 25 to 30 hours a week. So that has all transitioned to empowering our HR employees to get those answers to those super valuable questions that they have. And so many of you may be saying, okay, Elena, you're an analyst. You just reduced your hours by 25 a week. That's crazy. What are you doing instead?
All that free time.
All that free time. And so it's not a risk of, the jobs going away, but Cindy, just like what you were talking about with the analyst of the future, it's reallocating that time to putting together that data story and driving the transformation for data-driven decisions across the organization. So that's uniting technology, our analytics, and the human behavior and the processes for making decisions and putting data at that forefront. And I do keep mentioning this confidence and the comfortability of our HR users because it's a big transformation for them as well.
Yeah, so I understand you got a promotion out of this now as leading the transformation rather than doing the grunt work. Is that right?
You could say that, yes. Yeah, I'm very fortunate that I did get to transition roles. I'm actually still maintaining my consultant role for North America because the way that my role has shifted, I can still balance that with my new role as change manager. So I'm leading the data-driven culture across HR. And really that comes down to how do we build that case for change, communicate it effectively, and through all of our initiatives in people analytics, drive that adoption and really shift the mindset through building skills and creativity in this space.
Yeah, that's awesome, Elena. So let's see what people are saying or asking on social media on LinkedIn. So George is asking, what does the adoption entail? And you referred specifically to training, but maybe I don't want people thinking, oh, 8 hours, 2 days of training. Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah. So adoption for us here at Schneider really is connecting into that tool and working with our community to get them into the tool came with some training. But what we tried to do is set up the trainings in a way that it's easy to ingest the information. We're not throwing all of it out there at once, but instead we had a few sessions, an hour a piece over a couple weeks, where we covered the high level things. But what we did that's really different from what we've done in the past is we hosted office hours for a few months, every week, 30-minute session where our HR employees could drop in, ask their questions. We could present little 5-minute tidbits of tips and tricks in ThoughtSpot as they're using it, and creating this continual dialogue with our end users to boost their creativity, make sure their questions are getting answered. And it's a great place for them to bring their feedback so we can enhance the tool as well.
That's great. So another question from Katina, your 78% adoption rate is great. Do you think it will increase? And if so, how would you get it higher?
Great question. So we are scaling up globally. So that's the next big challenge for us is how do we support our community on this global scale? And what we have been able to do with our partners at ThoughtSpot is we have a pretty detailed adoption pin board that we track on a regular basis, and we're able to break down our adoption rates by different user personas. So for us, that means frontline HR versus leaders versus analysts. And we can break that down by business unit or function. And then we take tailored actions on that. So let's say one department of our HR employees, maybe they aren't engaging with the tool as much as we would like. Then we take action with their leaders, make sure their leaders are on board, and then host a training that's going to be more applicable to them, to put that at the forefront, get them excited, and really making the content applicable to them. So we've seen success there, and we're going to take that approach moving forward.
Great. So, and then we'll wrap up. So we have Safia commenting, love your journey, Elena. Amazing to hear how you've created this path for yourself by proving the value of data first. And I have to brag on Elena a little bit too, because Elena, also, you really are just getting started in your career, having recently completed your master's. Is that right?
Yes. So it has been a very quick journey with a big learning curve, but a very exciting one, and I'm ready to continue on. But thank you for the nice comment. It's been a great journey, and I can't wait to continue.
Yeah. So on behalf of ThoughtSpot, and so Stephen's adding, thanks, Elena, amazing strategy. And I'll also say, Elena, we just wrote a blog for us, so we'll share that with you. That should be going live today, I believe. Elena, thank you so much for sharing your story. Have a great day.
Yeah, thank you so much, Cindy, and I hope everyone has a great day with the rest of the awesome sessions. Thank you.
Thank you. So next, I want to introduce you all the way from beautiful California, Raj Gupta, the Senior Director in IT from Flex. Raj, welcome.
Thank you so much, Cindy. Thanks for having me.
Okay, now you're going to bring me down a rat hole. I'm looking at your footballs behind you, Raj.
Yeah, we've got one from Super Bowl 50. So I'm originally from Denver. So that game was played here in the beautiful Bay Area. So Denver, we claim that as our home field. Sometimes we got our Super Bowl there. So, and then the other one actually, Ronnie Lott signed at a ThoughtSpot conference a few years ago.
I
So
remember that. So that was in Washington, D.C.
yes, ma'am.
Yes, great. And maybe I should ask, who did you root for on Sunday then?
I was a neutral observer on this year,
Neutral.
just cheering for a good game, which we didn't get, but I think.
Well, I don't know. Tampa would say it was a great game.
Yeah, of course, yes, it was. For them it was.
Yes, yes. Well, Packers fan, so I don't know, whatever. And anyway, on to the next topic. So Raj, for those who are not familiar with Flex, tell us a little bit about Flex.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Cindy. So Raj Gupta here, Senior Director at IT. So Flex is a global technology and supply chain manufacturing company. We partner with customers around the world, really to make the world a better place. That's kind of our motto. We were recently recognized by Fortune 2021 as one of the world's most admired companies, really driven by our focus on social responsibility, global competitiveness, and use of our corporate assets. We're located across, over 30 countries, operating in, almost every industry you can think of: automotive, healthcare, networking. It goes on. I can go on for a long time in this type of industries we've operated. I'm primarily responsible for the financial reporting and intelligence, but in addition, I'm responsible for helping proliferate and expand ThoughtSpot to the rest of the organization, to also make their world a better place. All right, and really drive data-driven decisions.
Yeah, so I love that motto, making the world a better place and using data behind it. But, Flex, Raj, you were an early adopter of ThoughtSpot. What was the key reason you brought it in, and how did you make the business case, given that you already have so many other BI tools?
Yeah, it's a great question, right? We're flooded with BI tools, as some of our users would say, but really ThoughtSpot, came in at a perfect time for us, right? Being a global company across 30 countries, right? What we've seen is a lot of, disruption in the supply chain,
Mm-hmm.
increased regionalization, driving the need for rapid simulations, the supply, the shorter product life cycles, the customization of product lines, right, where each customer is not necessarily, you can't just put a bread and butter cookie around it. And as we've seen the last few months, accelerated. It was there before, but it's been definitely accelerated with the pandemic. A constrained marketplace, right? Component shortages, impact, and of course we've seen in the last few years impact on trade and tax policy. So ThoughtSpot was there at a perfect time for us to get the better visibility, right, into the data at a faster rate, right? I heard somebody say months and months of dashboards, right? That's where ThoughtSpot came in, and it became days and weeks, right? Because you get to the visibility, you can connect multiple data sets, which was a continuous ask for us, right? Is how do I get data sets connected in an ad hoc manner, right? Nobody wants to, I called it ping pong or table tennis, right? Where our users were always kind of, being in IT, some of my developers got upset with me when I was like, we don't necessarily need to be always receiving and doing a customization, right? Let the users do a lot of it on their own, right? We can be the backbone of making sure the data is accurate, making sure it's available at the time and need of the user, depending on the data source. I used to use a phrase, right? We need to have the data ready at the speed of a tweet, right? That's been kind of.
Oh, I love that. At the speed of a tweet. Well, I like that.
And so, yeah, so that was kind of our, the driving force of, we need something that we can move faster, that can keep the conversation going, right? We always used to get into a manner of, you have a dashboard that was presented or a prepared or a PowerPoint, but then the next question would be asked in the meeting. And then you'd say, I'll come back with that answer, right? Or let me come back to you with that data. And the user probably had it, but they maybe not feel, want to disrupt the meeting or get it behind the scenes. Or maybe they don't want to, maybe ensure that it's the right data point. Where ThoughtSpot allows the conversation to keep going. I think they call it conversational analytics, right?
Yeah.
Where getting all those people back in the room at a future point may be impossible, right? So if somebody asks a question on a dashboard or a pinboard, right? Our finance users, being a finance guy, they used to say, "Oh, Excel allows me to jump from pinboard to pin or tab to tab." And I said, well, now you can jump from pinboard to pinboard, and now you can drill and you can do your discovery, real time in the meeting, just like you would do kind of in an Excel nature. And that kind of flipped the switch.
Great, great. And so just to clarify for people who don't know the product, a pinboard is the term we use for a dashboard, but you're pinning it rather than building it, and anyone can create them. So you started, Raj, with working capital. You brought it into the finance organization. How have you expanded beyond that to also bringing it to supply chain?
Yeah, so one of the driving forces was the Spot IQ engine. Really, because the supply chain was a little bit more mature in their analytics capabilities, but one of the main driving forces was they're really excited about the Spot IQ and of course the ad hoc piece of it, right? So being across 30 countries of so many industries, we have a lot of inventory and a lot of components. So, there's only so much you can kind of present on a dashboard in some of the other tools, right? Where this team was really excited, where you could, have the granularity to drill up and down, real time. In addition to the ability for Spot IQ to kind of provide some insights on where they should go focus, narrow down, out of our, 100 plus sites and factories, and 1,000 plus customers, where is the actual focus points on, where we need to move some of the inventory, where are we having shortages, where we need to take, a response to maybe if there's some type of environmental issue. And I think that really changed the game for them.
Great. So to clarify, Spot IQ is the no-code component in ThoughtSpot that generates the insights, the questions that you didn't know you even had, to tell you what are the outliers at a very granular level.
Yeah, sorry, I'm using some of the lingo.
Oh, no, that's fine. I'm sure afterwards people will be like, what is this? But just to make sure. And I know that given the way business has changed in the last year, you also are applying one of these trends, again, a pioneer here, on bringing new alternative external data into that analysis. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so one of our, newer use cases, but, higher priority ones, of course, is, all of this return to work and digitizing the workforce, right? Really understanding where our employees are, how we could potentially get them back safely at a point where it makes sense. And so some of that data is internal, but a lot of it is external, right? Around some of the COVID hotspots. And even, beyond that, what we're looking around is like employee data, right? Because there's been a lot of transition of employees, where they live, where they're moving. So really understanding, that data set, which ThoughtSpot's really been, partnering with us, is bringing in the ability to get, that hotspot data, right, across different countries, right? So we have a focus in a lot of our, countries outside of the U.S. And so it's, of course, the Johns Hopkins data set, and then we have India data sets, we have Europe data sets, and all kind of marrying it together and linking it together with our HR data, our time and attendance data, so that we can kind of figure out, one, how to bring everybody back safely, but if we also have some type of hybrid model, what does that look like for us, and what are the skills and people that we need in different locations, and are they available? So it started with a return to work kind of initiative, but it's kind of mushroomed even to like employee productivity and employee safety initiative as well.
Yeah, huge. That's so important. And as you look ahead, what are your hopes for ThoughtSpot? Where are you taking it next? Will the cloud have a role in this?
Yeah, so we're really excited, about the cloud initiative, because I think that's where we're seeing almost the whole world headed. So it's good timing for us, because it gives us an opportunity to kind of align our internal enterprise strategy of cloud adoption. A big piece of that being different platforms like Snowflake and Hadoop, and kind of understanding that transformation on the data set combined with the analytics,
Yeah.
Right. So it's going to take an enterprise-wide. I mean, I'm not going to discount the effort it's going to take, because it's going to take an enterprise-wide effort for us to kind of go on this journey.
1%. Start with the first 1%. I know grants. I know our customer success team will be reining you in there. Just get started, and you'll get.
We eat the elephant one bite at a time. So
yeah.
And we're excited because, like I said, it's for us, it's perfect timing, because we're already kind of, I think like most companies, moving on that journey of transition and modernization. So this will just be another lever in the chain.
Okay, Raj, you've given me another tweet. Eat that elephant one bite at a time. Let's see what people on social media, what questions we have on LinkedIn. Is there a case study for Flex using ThoughtSpot available online? From Grace. Thank you, Grace. I think I should know this cold, but I'm not sure even I know that cold. Do you know, Raj?
I don't know. I know we have a few. I know we've been at a few conferences and we've done a fair amount of presentations, but we can definitely be happy to share any information with anybody, that's on the call.
We'll check. And I'll also say the, Flex on using data and analytics in the supply chain. Flex has a number of great blogs on that. Comment from Minel. So she also likes this. Data at the speed of a tweet. Perfect. Is it a dynamic dashboard? Noreen is asking.
Yeah. So the way, I mean, and I know I use some of the lingo, and they warned me not to. So, but
no, you can. Well, don't worry. Lisa's going to educate everyone in a minute.
Yeah. So it's really great because what you do is you essentially create the pinboard or a dashboard, and then it becomes dynamic, right? So if you want to, you can freeze it, right? But if it really allows you to give the flexibility to user to drill up and down, and give the flexibility to the end user.
And then from Rod, how do you mitigate the risk of users creating dashboards on data they don't understand? Isn't it dangerous to have people make decisions based on misleading dashboards? Sorry, Rod.
Oh, challenging question. So yes, I think that's where I've told my team where we still play an integral part, because you still need the right data governance, you still need the right data model to ensure that the data is clean and accurate that's being presented to the user. And I think the speaker before also mentioned, right, training is a big part of it, right? We cannot discount that training and adoption is a key element. But I think you have to have your subject matter experts involved to ensure that the data integrity is there, and you cannot get to an answer that you should not get to.
Yeah, and train on the data, less on the tool, which we spend too much time. I think the other thing, but you confirm or deny, it's that ThoughtSpot is totally server-based. So it's democratized data with guardrails and governance, not desktop, but you can confirm or deny.
No, agreed.
Okay, so from Ivan, how do you overcome the user reception challenges because of the culture mindsets?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, because I think culture and adoption is probably the hardest part. People are used to doing what they've been doing for X amount of years, right? This is the way I've done it. It's worked. There's a few folks that are like looking for something better, but a lot of people, I've done it in Excel, or I've done it in XYZ tool. Why should I adopt that? At least from a finance perspective, that's my biggest challenge, right? But I think the adoption comes into when you prove out the value and the speed, and for us it's been kind of almost a light clicks, right? When you actually show them real time that you're no longer actually having to do 3 extra steps, that you're no longer frozen here, that you don't actually have to wait for this or wait for that, and that's where the ad hoc nature and the ML AI engine have really transformed, what our user adoption used to be with the other tools. Because it used to be, it's okay, it looks more fancy, but what am I getting as value? With ThoughtSpot, it's that drill capability, that ability to keep the conversation going, and that ability to keep it ad hoc, right? Even something as simple as changing graphs and colors, right? My team used to get bottled down, and somebody wants a bar chart and a line chart, have at it.
That's what people don't like their jobs. Like, is that really value added? Let them tweak it on their own. We need your skills working on bringing in more data. So Leon is asking, how did you go about aligning the business to a singular BI tool? And did you?
So, I don't think that was our vision. I think we always believe there will be a few players in the pot. We always think ThoughtSpot so far has been a complementary tool to our other BI tools. Now we have displaced certain dashboards, and we've had certain use cases where we explored and we did not displace, honestly. So, I think our vision is we don't want 20 tools. We don't want, we want a core set of foundational tools. I don't know what that number is. Our CTO can kind of answer that for us. But I think the tools need to have their place and their right use case, and make sure they complement each other and that you don't have duplication. Right. I think that was our number one driver, is to make sure that if we have a tool, it's servicing something specific that is providing value.
Yeah, value and no duplication. Great advice, Raj. Thank you so much for always so willingly sharing your time. I encourage people to connect with Raj on LinkedIn. Raj, have a great day. Next, as you mentioned, some of the tool capabilities, we want you to see it in action. So I'm pleased to introduce my colleague from beautiful Boston, Lisa Aguilar, Director of Product Marketing from ThoughtSpot. Lisa, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Cindy. We heard some great stories here from Alana and Raj, and I'm sure they've got some great achievements, and everyone seems excited about that on LinkedIn. So I want to take you a quick tour about what it is they were able to achieve and how they were able to achieve that with ThoughtSpot. Now, for those of you who don't know us, we are a cloud analytics platform. We are the category creators and leaders of search and AI-driven insights. All right, so when you immediately log into ThoughtSpot, everything that you need is right here, right at your fingertips. This is the pulse of what's happening with your company data. You can see the trending signals. You can stay connected, see what's changing, what's hot with your business data, and never miss a moment. Think of this very much similar to your social feed. You're always going to stay on top of what's hot. What's more is, because we connect live to your cloud data warehouse, you can create a full 360-degree view of your business. Everything about this is built to get you the exact answer that you need right when you need it, not go back to the data well and try and rebuild this one more time. And that really can only be powered through search. So here we have search data. In my search data, I can ask questions of my data like, what were my daily sales? Let's take a look at that, daily sales. And I want to look at this, what it was over the last 30 days. Great. And then I want to take a look at this by product type. Now, one thing I just want to call out very quickly here is with ThoughtSpot, we don't just index your metadata. We index the entire data set. So everything's available for you right here, right at your fingertips when you need it. You're not limited to it. So we're going to hit product type. And with search answers, just like that, in seconds, I have my answers. Now, as you can see, the search intelligence, as I start to type in, makes recommendation based on my behavior, as well as what I have access to. Because I have a 360-degree view, let's say I want to actually look at this now by channel type, not just what's being sold, but where it's being sold. And I want to customize this into a stacked chart because that's how I like to look at my data. And just like that, at a click of a button, I can switch this chart. What's going on in the background is natural language query is translating my business question into a search query against all of my data. And this is going back to what Raj said. This is data at the speed of a tweet. What's more is, like Raj was saying, none of this is static. You can completely interact with this in the way that makes the most sense for you and to get the data that you need at the granular level that you want. So we can look at this by product name. I continue to explore this down, and let's say I want to take a look at this by where the stores are being sold. And this is very relevant information. This is why a lot of our customers are moving off of these static dashboards and embracing search and AI. They need these real-time, extremely granular views when they're releasing new products or adjusting to buying behaviors that are changing constantly today. Now, what's more is, as Cindy said, it's not enough just to build AI machine learning models. You should be able to put them in the hands and making decisions really quickly. With ThoughtSpot, you're not just searching all of your data, but you're also able to look for all of your AI machine learning models that you're building with automated machine learning tools like DataRobot or DataIQ, like Cindy just mentioned. Search is the absolute fastest way to make them actionable and surface them up seamless and intuitively. So let's take a look at a rolling forecast, which is a very real world scenario these days in terms of supply chain. So we're going to take a look at daily, and I want to look at sales. And I'm going to pull in my forecasting model that's already been built. So I have my forecast 2. This is my optimistic forecast. And forecast 3, this I know is my pessimistic forecast. And as Cindy said, pulling in third-party data is really important to give you those leading indicators. So right here, I have COVID cases. This is Johns Hopkins data. It's live. It's being able to pull in so I can see how that's going to maybe change some of my users' behavior as they go through this. And I want to do this as a rolling last 90 days. And I want to look at it in the next 90 days. Perfect. Here we go. ThoughtSpot is all about honoring a single source of truth. Now, this is extremely critical when it comes to your data, but it is crucial when it comes to your AI and machine learning models. So let me group this here because I like my forecasts grouped on the same side as my sales. So I'm going to go ahead and just adjust this view to the view that I want to see it. And perfect, just like that. Here are my 90-day sales. Here is my pessimistic forecast, my optimistic forecast, and I've got COVID cumulative cases that I'm pulling from Johns Hopkins data. Now, of course, what's going to happen, as Alana and Raj are talking about, you're going to get a next question. So it's not just about the last 90 days or the next 90 days. Let's say I want to take a look at this in a shorter time frame. I want to look at this as the last 30 days. And I want to take a look at this now at the next 30 days because things are changing extremely rapidly now with things that are happening. And let's say I only want to look at a particular set of information. So I want to look at jackets. Perfect. And I want to look at pants. I am in Boston, so it's quite cold. So I want to only look at winter weather here. And then just like that, once again, getting the information right at my fingertips the way that I need it. So your data teams aren't looking at maintaining these models and making sure that they're getting to the right publishing servers or having to recreate workbooks. You're creating these machine learning models, you're writing them back into your cloud data warehouse, surfacing them up quickly and easily to all of your analysts and your data teams through the power of search. Now, what's more is this isn't black box. We're all about giving you the transparency that you need to make sure you can understand how we came to this answer. So if we can take a look here, what's happening, you can see exactly how all the information was calculated. What's more is when we look underneath the hood, we can click on see that our intelligence here automatically created and optimized and generated the SQL for you. So you're not having to worry about tweaking it and making sure that it's performant and getting you the right answers when you need. The intelligence is handling this on the fly in sub-seconds for you. Now let's take a look at this query visualizer. As Cindy said, it's time to find the joy in our jobs again. It's not about battling these joins and subqueries, trying to bend over backwards to create multiple table joins, or worrying about chasm traps. This is also what Raj was talking about again. You want those insights at the speed of tweets. You don't want to be that table ping pong questioning. ThoughtSpot handles all of that for you so you can focus on the information, getting it out of the data and not building these customized one-off data workflows and updating all of these workbooks as you need to. So perfect. One of the questions we often get asked a lot is, well, I'm new to my organization. I've never used ThoughtSpot as a business user or even as an analyst. That's okay. just like you don't have to take a class on Google or take a detailed training on how to turn on your iPhone and get going. Our consumer grade search experience makes it super easy for anyone to get started. So let's ask a question. What are the best selling regions? Let's say I just want to take a look. I'm a new merchandising manager. I want to get a sense on who's doing well. Go ahead and click go there. Now, what we're searching here is every answer that's possibly been created that is addressing the business question I just asked. With ThoughtSpot, your insights aren't lost in the sea of desktop workbooks locked in disparate publishing servers. You have everything right here, no more analytic waste reinventing the wheel for you when you're working on things. What's more, as a business user, I'm typing in as I would ask a business question. Now, the AI built into ThoughtSpot is ignoring all of this filler language. It's recognizing that's not really my data question. What's more is best, as we all know, is not a data term, but ThoughtSpot is understanding the intent that I'm trying to ask with the term best. So it's showing me everything that I need to know, and it's thinking, do I want total sales? Maybe I meant by region, maybe I meant by growth. It's surfacing up all the insights for me. And ThoughtSpot isn't just searching, again, the metadata of these insights, it's searching all the underlying data to try and give you the most accurate answer based on your question here, and it's ranking them in terms of preference and usage and machine learning intelligence that's built in. Now, this is when we go back to what Alana was talking about, that tremendous adoption and that cultural change. And this is why AI-driven insights is a whole new paradigm. Like, the reality of it is business users, they don't want to talk data. They want to ask business questions in normal business language. So we took a different approach. We taught our software how to understand these questions and understand the intent of them with power of AI and machine learning. Now, sometimes you can find exactly what you're looking for, but sometimes this is a jumping off point of your insight. You want to see it in a slightly different way. It's great. Just click on the insight here. We're going to use this as a perfect jumping off point to make sure I'm getting the view that I need to see exactly the way I want to see it. Once again, we have AI making suggestions here on this insight. So think of this when you check out at Amazon, and it makes recommendations about products that may interest you as well. This is a very similar idea, but it's doing it against your insights. The other thing, as Raj and I keep alluding to, nothing is static about this. This is live connected to your cloud data warehouse, so you can explore this data without any bottlenecks, without having to rebuild anything. You can take a look at this by SKU, you can take a look at this by store, you can see this exactly how you want to see this information. Again, this is where Raj is talking about that table ping pong, trying to have a conversation with your analytics, and that's what ThoughtSpot supports. This is also why customers like Walmart and Canadian Tire are de-investing in their dashboard solutions, because they need these real-time, extremely granular views of the data when they're doing things like price optimization for discounting. They want to get it at the SKU and the store level. Now, we heard about pin boards, so let's take a look at some pin boards. This is another way that users are going to interact with your data here. So let's take a look at this. As Raj was explaining, these aren't static. These are living, breathing insights. This is a data narrative that you can interact with extremely well. You can go ahead and drill down anywhere that you want. You can take a look at this in the exact way that you want to see it. You can do this in presentation mode, actually present this data and information. Again, I saw some of those LinkedIn questions of, let me get back to you. No more, let me get back to you. Stay in your meeting, have your conversation, drill down, answer the next question, get to the information that you need right then and there. And because this is all browser-based, you can go ahead and just kick out of that, turn that back to normal. Now, you heard a little bit about our Spot IQ. So Spot IQ is our one-click auto analysis being driven by AI. So let's say you want to understand what are the driving factors that made your top 10 stores your top 10 stores. Simple. Click my Spot IQ, go ahead and kick off my analysis. Now, a lot of times what we get is we get these views, and as business users, I kind of want to customize this again, get a little bit of a detailed view that I want to see, no problem. Just going to go ahead and copy and edit this one. Again, I get the flexibility that I need to take this insight, customize it, optimize it in the way that I want to consume it with zero limitations and problems. All right, so I don't want to see this by monthly. Let's say I want to see this actually by daily. So I'm going to go ahead and just switch that out. And instead of product types, I actually want to see this by jackets. So I'm just going to delete that, and I'm going to replace that with jackets. As you can tell, it's still very cold. Jackets are on my mind here in Boston. And once again, within seconds, I've got the insights that I need. In a normal dashboarding world, I'd have to go back to my dashboard developer to get me this insight. And now let's see, I've got some trends going on here. I've got a low point and I've got a peak up here. I kind of want to understand what are the key drivers that have driven this. Again, one click, Spot IQ, auto analysis, kick that off. Within seconds, I can drive and ask questions of my data that I didn't even know to ask. ThoughtSpot is automatically generating new information. So let's take a look at this.
Lisa,
Top 10 stores. Yeah.
that was a great demo. And I know there's so much goodness that everyone wants to see. But we really wanted to just give everyone a taste here today. We know we're short on time. So I want to thank you for the demo. Thank everyone for attending, listening to the trends, our customer stories, seeing ThoughtSpot in action. Next, we really want you to get a taste of it. Try it yourself. Take this 1-hour class. It's a white glove experience where we guide you through it. You can experience all the ThoughtSpot goodness in real time. So sign up for this class. With that, on behalf of ThoughtSpot, Kate, thank you to the whole DATAcated team for hosting us today, and I'll pass it back to you, Kate.
Awesome. Thank you so much. It was really, really great to hear the keynote, the customer conversations, as well as the amazing demo. I know, Lisa, you're too excited. You just wanted to show us the world. I've seen a demo. I think we spent about an hour and a half watching the demo, and I just kept wanting to see more. But I do know we are on a schedule here, so I really want to thank everybody so far for all of your time today. Thank you so much, Cindy. Great keynote, great customer panels. And Lisa, again, thank you so much for that demo. All right, we're going to say thank you again and keep this data party moving. I'm going to go ahead and introduce our very next speaker. We're going to hear from Christina Statopoulos. She's going to talk to us about going from zero to hero and provide a simple explanation of machine learning. Originally, she's from the United States, but she is based in Madrid, Spain since 2012. Christina is dedicated to the world of data. You can say she's datacated. Right? She's currently working as an analytical consultant at Google, helping advertising clients get the most out of their data to understand their consumers and find market opportunities. She also lectures in analytics topics across top business schools, holds an adjunct faculty position at IE Business School, and is a guest lecturer at ISDI. Both are universities in Madrid. Alongside her corporate and academic work, she's an international conference speaker supporting women in STEM and emerging technologies. On the fun side of things, although all those things I think are also fun, Christina is a travel junkie and a bibliophile. She is known for her hashtag Book a Week challenge hosted on LinkedIn. I personally can't imagine reading a book a week, but she does it. She encourages others to also pick up good habits like reading books. She has been reading a book a week for years and hopes to inspire others to pick up a similar reading habits and foster continuous growth. All right, without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to Christina. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for the intro, Kate. And I have to say that you've set the bar really high with virtual conferences, because yesterday I attended the whole thing, really fabulous, and today again. So I hope I can keep up that same energy.
Thank you so much. Well, you were our most highest rated speaker at the first conference. So no pressure here, but I'm going to let you take it away. I'm going to hop off the stage. Thank you so much, Christina.
Thank you. So yeah, no pressure, no pressure. To all of the attendees that are watching live now, I do hope you're enjoying the conference. I hope you got to attend yesterday. I hope you get to go again tomorrow. And I want to welcome you to my talk on From Zero to Hero, a simple explanation of machine learning. So you may remember me from the last DATAcated conference. And for those that do, I do want to give a shout out to my team Squirrel, because I know there are a lot of you connected today. But today I'll be doing something different. I'm not going to talk about SQL, SQL Squirrel. I thought that with a full day segment dedicated to artificial intelligence and machine learning, I thought it would be a good idea to kind of start the day giving an intro into what is machine learning, bring us up to speed in case I'm sure there's a lot of us that don't really know what's going on behind the scenes. So in the next 10 minutes or so, I'm going to try to explain it, but in simple terms, and also transmit why it's such a powerful piece of the artificial intelligence puzzle. So you're hearing a lot lately about things, not just machine learning, but deep learning, data science, artificial intelligence, robotics, chatbots, NLP, the list goes on and on. But what you should know is that a lot of this boils down to data. So new data, different data that is better than any data we've ever had our hands on before. And access to these large amounts of diverse, fast-moving data, it gives us the chance to really excel in domains like machine learning. But what is machine learning? What's going on? So I'll give you a moment. I wanted to make this a bit interactive. I want you to share your ideas in the chat. So how do you define machine learning? Even if you don't know, what does it make you think of? How would you describe it? Or what words do you connect to machine learning? So I'll give you a couple moments, but share in the chat live in YouTube and LinkedIn. But share your ideas. What does machine learning make you think of? All right, while you share your ideas, I'm going to continue on. So this is from Clarke's 3 Laws. This was written by Arthur Clarke. It's a science fiction writer in the 1960s. And there's a famous quote that still lives on to this day. And he said, any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. So machine learning could be one of those such technologies, but I hate to burst your bubble. It's not magic. At its essence, it is statistics, it's mathematics, probability, algorithms, and usually lots of data. Machine learning is a piece of the artificial intelligence puzzle. So this diagram helps put it into perspective. Artificial intelligence is itself a branch of computer science trying to create intelligent machines. And then it branches off into many different pieces. Some of the core ones are listed here. And one of the incredible things about recent advancements in this area is that there were 3 things that humans always did better than machines until now. And that is recognize images, recognize text, and recognize voice. So these abilities and everything else you see listed here are all critical pieces to building that ultimate artificial intelligence. One very important piece, though, arguably the most important piece, is machine learning. So artificial intelligence, with the ability to properly learn, it has almost endless possibilities in what it can achieve. And being able to learn, not just from others, but being able to self-learn opens doors to solving more and more complex problems. In order to understand it, though, I want to take a step back, and we're going to define what is learning. So learning in itself is defined as any process by which a system improves performance from experience. So machine learning, then, is the study of algorithms that improve their performance at some task with experience. Now, Stanford defines it as the science of getting computers to act without being explicitly programmed. It gives computers the ability to make predictions, to discover patterns, and most important, it gives them the ability to get better over time as they are exposed to more and more data. Now, machine learning is so special because for many tasks, we have moved away from a rules-based approach of the past. In the past, all tasks had to be performed by writing rules, steps for a computer to follow. So tasks could be things, complicated things, maybe like classifying pictures into different groups, or forecasting future sales, or even playing strategy games like chess or Go. So in the past, engineers, developers, analysts, they would have to feed all of the rules into the system one by one. And this works okay for some things that follow a very step-by-step, well-defined, understood process. But for other tasks, it's nearly impossible to do it this way. So imagine, for example, trying to teach a computer English or any language for that matter. You would have to write out rules for everything: the grammar, vocabulary, the sentence structure, even very abstract concepts like jokes and sarcasm and double meanings. So it's just not feasible with written rules. Thankfully, though, machine learning came around. So with the machine learning approach, it's kind of like the exact opposite of a rules-based approach. A machine is fed the data, and besides a bit of guidance via an algorithm, it's left free to analyze and understand that data on its own and to find patterns. And it can also adapt over time, it can improve, and many times it can be easily scaled. So this works nicely for those previously impossible tasks that I mentioned before: learning a language, recognizing images and classifying them, or playing strategy games like chess. For you to understand the implications, I want to bring it even more down to earth. And I want you to think of how babies learn. So imagine when you were born. You did not come into the world knowing anything. You had some natural instincts, yes, but not much more knowledge about the world around you. And you could not even recognize faces or understand the different expressions and emotions that people had. But over time, over the first weeks and months, you were exposed to more and more faces, and you began to recognize these faces and their features. And even as you were exposed to more, you also started to recognize smiles and frowns. And you even started to associate them with their emotions. So no one really taught you this. You learned by collecting data, this sensory input from all of your surroundings, and then you eventually recognized patterns, and it's almost like you unconsciously assigned labels to this data in your head. So that's what we're trying to get machines to do in a way with image recognition, for example. So we feed them the data and we let them find and recognize their own patterns within it. Contrary to popular ill-advised beliefs, though, machine learning is not new. It's actually been around for decades, but it's very much been behind closed doors, I would say, in academia. It's become a lot more mainstream now, and that's thanks to three things. So first of all, we have more data, we have big data, we have access to so much more data than we could have ever imagined, and also so many varieties, types of data. And at the same time, data generation is exploding. It's continuing to grow and grow. Second of all, we have this increased and cheaper computing power. And then finally, thanks to more data and thanks to increased computing power, and also it's cheaper, we have better algorithms. And these are algorithms that just simply weren't possible before, either because they must run on a lot of data, and it was data that we didn't have, or because the processing power, it wasn't feasible, or maybe it wasn't affordable. Under the hood, machine learning has many different algorithms. It's not just a one-size-fits-all concept. There's lots of tweaking involved, and also it's very important understanding your problem and understanding your data at hand. So you can ultimately decide what algorithm best fits. There are also, there's hybrid learning models, but putting those aside, there are three main types of learning. So I would say algorithms usually fall into one of these three buckets. The first one is supervised learning, or learning by example. So this includes a lot of basic algorithms that you may be familiar with if you studied statistics, things like regression. So supervised learning means that you have a dependent variable, let's say the price of a plane ticket. And this dependent variable depends on other independent variables, things like the origin and destination, the airline, the trip dates, the browser cookies. And in these cases, then, we have historical labeled data to train our model on. The second one is unsupervised learning, or discovering patterns. So no specific historical examples are provided per se, and there's not necessarily a target variable to predict. There's no labels. So this is typically clustering, grouping customers into similar groups, for example, based on their similarities and their differences. And the last one is reinforcement learning, or feedback, right and wrong. This includes models training a machine to make decisions. So they're taught via trial and error, being rewarded for good decisions and punished for bad ones. And then they continue to improve over time, learning from their own mistakes, kind of the way that we as humans do. And these types of algorithms, they can be very powerful. They are used in things like self-driving cars. So this gives them the ability to be autonomous, to learn from their surroundings and make decisions on their own and on the spot. Now, I've crammed a ton of information into the last 10 minutes. Today's talk was not meant to get technical, though. This is a simple introduction to make sure that everyone comes more up to speed on the topic, so that when others later today and tomorrow, if they mention machine learning, at least you have a good understanding of what we're talking about here, even if you have no prior experience. So if you're coming from a background where you might want to get deeper into this, I have a couple suggestions here. So the one to the left, this is called the 100-page machine learning book. This is a favorite by many. It's written by Andrei Burkov. And then we have to the right a very famous course on Coursera. It regularly ranks one of the most popular courses there. This is done via Stanford, and it's taught by Andrew Ng. He's also the co-founder of Coursera, so you might recognize his name. Now, I really hope you enjoyed our time together, but I cannot finish today without some solid book recommendations. So if you know me, then you know I love books. I gave you before the recommendation for the 100-page machine learning book, but here you have even more books on data, analytics, AI, ML, and more. So I'm going to keep the screen here. I suggest you take a screenshot if you do want to look up these books later. These are all great to just learn more about machine learning and AI and things, but not on a technical level. Most of them are very approachable to any background. As well, you've got a reminder for my #BookAWeek challenge. I also promote the Book a Month challenge as well for those that don't want to take on a book a week. And as well, you have my QR code in the upper right corner. If you scan that, it'll take you directly to my page, and you can follow, you can connect. I'm happy to connect with more of you. So thank you very much for your time today. I'm happy to open the floor to questions, Kate.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that amazing overview of machine learning. And I love your book recommendations. I always follow your posts on book recommendations. I've actually read The Weapons of Math Destruction, and I'm currently reading AI Superpowers as an audiobook. I'm listening to it. So
AI Superpowers is amazing. I actually have a lot of the books I have right behind me. AI Superpowers is one of my favorite. Weapons of Math Destruction as well. And then another one is Everybody Lies.
Oh, yes. I have that one. I haven't started that.
It's so good. It's so good.
So early in your presentation, you've asked a question for the audience. We have a lot of responses here. I'm going to go through a couple. So machine learning, Ed says, capturing logic solutions. Lance says, high complexity beyond limited brain power. Daniela, input, abstraction, generalization. Machine learning that learns with experience. And Angel says, a formula to predict something. What are your thoughts on these comments?
They look good. I mean, everybody has their own interpretations. At least I hope today everybody has a better idea of it. I hate that I can't see all the comments live while I'm in the backstage, but later on I'm going to go back and read and see what everybody was sharing. But I always encourage people, I teach about this sometimes in my classes, and I like to see what people think of it as. And hopefully today's talk helps it, keep a grounded idea of what it can be.
Absolutely. And I do have a question here. I knew this would come up from David. How do you do it? One book a week? That's insane.
It's actually the most common question I get on LinkedIn. Because it's the most common question I get, I wrote an article about it. So if you go to my page, it'll be pinned at the top. But how do I do it? One of the biggest things is making it a habit. So if you think about it, even if you sit down and read 30 minutes a day, let's see, 15 minutes in the morning and 15 minutes at night, 30 minutes a day, that's 3.5 hours a week. You can get through a lot. So it's the most important is making a habit of it and not letting a day go by that you don't stop and read. And I use it as a way to disconnect.
Okay, yeah, that's great. I read a lot as well, but definitely not a book a week. I do try a book a month, and Mark here is going to try a book a quarter. So thanks for that.
That works too. No, and Kate, you have kids. I've told you before. You have your own busy life, so
one of them was actually just in here. She was looking at your beautiful slides. She wanted to see the picture of the baby, and so I picked her up, and she was back here. I was off camera, obviously, but yes, that's. They're definitely here. Just looking, we have a lot of great comments and questions. Other people commenting on what they think machine learning is, training a model. Dolly says, thank you so much for that very detailed overview plus recommendations. Yeah, I think the book recommendations, you could not have left the stage without some. There is another question here from Brianna. She's asking, what is the best book recommendation for an absolute newbie? I'm assuming for machine learning specific.
Yeah, I'm trying to think, and I have my list in front of me here. See, a lot of the ones that I showed on the screen are quite good for newbies. There might be a couple that are a bit more technical, but for example, I recently read, and it's not just machine learning, it's even more than that. It's called The Second Machine Age. It's actually it's a couple years old, so it's outdated, but it's still really well done. And it gives a really good idea of the whole like AI landscape, and it's good for a newbie. So The Second Machine Age. Second Machine Age,
got it. And there was a question here on. I know you went over some of these, but what's the difference between reinforcement learning and deep learning?
Yeah, so deep learning, and without getting too technical in it, but deep learning is a subfield of machine learning. And it goes with artificial neural networks, which is a type of algorithm. And you can think of it like a large neural network. So it has a lot of different layers. It has more depth, and it can also be very scalable. Reinforcement learning is completely different. It's the way that we learned, like I spoke about before. So deep learning, actually, I believe it falls into supervised and unsupervised. Whereas reinforcement learning is a completely different type. Reinforcement is where they are learning from their mistakes, and they're learning from feedback, from making mistakes, from doing correct things. Whereas deep learning is these neural networks. So it can be used. A neural network, for example, can be used for things like image classification. Whereas reinforcement was the self-driving cars or chess.
Thank you for that. Let's take one more question. There's one more about books, obviously, Christina. Is each book that you read a week data related?
That's a good question too. I'm not that big of a data nerd. I do not read a data book a week. I read a book a week. I do read a lot on the topic of data, but I also like to mix it up. And that's something I recommend to others that want to read more. Change the genre all the time. Read fiction, read nonfiction, read sci-fi, read historical fiction, read data books, read business books. But if you change it up as well, it also helps you not get bored, I would say.
Yeah, I agree. I've actually been letting myself read multiple books at a time. I used to be very strict where I started a book, even if I hated it, I would make myself finish it, which meant sometimes I would not read for a couple of days in a row because I'm like, oh God, that book again. But it was a good book, right? There was just maybe some sections that were not as great. So now I'm reading 4 or 5 books at a time, all the time. And then I could just keep picking up different books whenever I feel like I'm in that kind of mood. I don't know if you read multiple books.
I've tested that for the first time. I think we've spoken about this before, that I don't like to read multiple books at the same time. But what I started doing is taking these books that are full of short stories, and I have it on the side. And sometimes at night when I don't want to read what I'm currently reading, I read a short story instead. So it's something new I'm trying, but reading multiple books at the same time, no problem with it. And it can help you with not doing what you did, which was procrastinating because you didn't like the current book.
Yes, and I did that for a while. So I'm glad I dropped that habit of finishing a book. And now if I really don't like it, I won't even read the whole thing. So that was a big move for me. But Christina, I want to just thank you so much for your time. Great presentation. Thank you for taking questions here. And I'm going to go ahead and keep this DATAcated party bus or train or whatever you want to call it moving. So thank you again. I will see you online.
Thank you so much.
All right. So that was Christina. Now we're moving on to Mike Wimmer. So some of you might have heard about Mike Wimmer on social media, but I am truly, really, really excited to introduce him and have him take part of the DATAcated conference. I'll start with this. His talk is going to be about preparing for human-robot interaction for the masses. Now, if that's not interesting enough for you yet, you have to keep in mind that this person, child, man, this person is only 12 years old. So this is actually very, very exciting for me to have a 12-year-old speaker on the DATAcated conference. But I'll briefly introduce him before I bring him up on stage. Mike Wimmer is a profoundly gifted, forward-thinking 12-year-old who has his sights set on redefining the future. His entrepreneurial goal is to build technology that enables people to live better and safer lives. Mike will be graduating from high school this spring, yes, at age 12. He loves speaking and teaching others about robotics and overcoming obstacles in one's paths to success. Mike was tested and given the membership at Mensa at age 3. Now, I have a 4- and 6-year-old, so I can't even imagine. I mean, they're reading, but this is on a whole different level. He's the first minor to complete a contract work for the United States Special Operations Command Science and Technology Directorate as a subject matter expert in AI and machine learning. I'm personally a huge fan of Mike. I've had him on my LinkedIn Live show. It was probably fall of last year. We had a great time. So I'm truly, truly excited to bring him up on stage here. Hello, Mike.
Hey, Kate, how are you doing?
Doing very well. Thank you so much for being here today. I'm really looking forward to your talk. I see you're wearing the DATAcated shirt. The robot's wearing a DATAcated shirt. This is amazing. So thank you so much for being here. I'm going to go ahead and hop off stage, let you take it away, and then I'll hop back on for some questions.
Awesome. Well, first, thank you, Kate, for the introduction and the opportunity to speak with such an amazing and accomplished group of people. So, hello, everyone. I hope you're having a great day wherever you are in the world. As Kate mentioned, I'm Mike Wimmer, and I'm having an awesome time both listening and learning from everyone here at the DATAcated conference. So as Kate said, my talk is going to be a little off topic from the majority of the presenters at the conference, but I think you'll find how it's a little bit relevant to your field. I want to talk about robots, and more specifically, human-robot interaction. So how many of you would like to have a robot in your home helping with daily chores and keeping your house running smoothly? And if so, just hit the like button for me. Awesome. Well, that's quite a few of you. Who wouldn't want one, right? So how do we make this happen? That's a question being asked and studied by hundreds, if not thousands of companies around the world each and every day. The solution is not found in the robot itself. I can develop the most advanced and socially sophisticated robot the world has ever seen. But without positive perception by the masses, my robot company will likely fail. Nearly every day, we hear about another robot company shuttering its doors due to overreaching their target customer. Now, when I say overreaching, I am not just referring to the cost to own and level of skill needed to use the robot. I'm also referring to the overreaching the perception robots currently have in the public. We have all tuned into social media showing cool robots doing parkour or jumping rope, to movies showing robots as highly cognitive, out of control, killing machines destined to overtake our planet. The robotics community is not doing enough to dispel the myths and false opinions generated by the masses. So how do we overcome this major hurdle? Well, the answer lies in the data. I can spend millions on marketing and ad campaigns for my robot, but if robots are still perceived as bad, I just wasted all of my efforts. Here is what I feel we must do, not as business people, but as scientists and humanitarians, for the good of us all. My idea is a parallel effort focused on two fronts. The first focused on enlightening the masses. The latter is developing a standardization for robots. Getting the world ready to accept robots is what I call the 3 E's: explanation, education, and exploration. This is where good data comes into the equation. Looking at explanation, there is no standardization of terminology, level of risk to human life, or scale to normalize the cognitive levels of robots. Buzzwords that have been embedded into culture are being used out of context or without regard to their intended meaning. For example, a quite common one is AI versus machine learning versus deep learning are all being interchanged. Developing clean, easy to understand definitions for complex ideas that everyone can comprehend is step one. The second of my 3 E's is education. Finding ways of teaching everyone the capabilities, but more importantly, the limitations of robots. Despite what we see on the big screen, a robot with the intelligence and skills of the Terminator is still a long way off. Although we are not to the point of putting a Jarvis from Iron Man in every home, I think it would be cool. What I think we will be seeing first is more single-task robots, likely a single-arm robot with some level of chatbot capabilities, but more focused on being self-aware and adjusting to its surroundings. Having a robot that can assist in the kitchen, but that can also respond and adjust to the presence of a human. The final E is exploration. Getting people interacting with robots and not just watching YouTube videos. We need robots and STEM education in every school, beginning at the early level. But the sooner we get robots into the hands of all the kids, the sooner we will have positive worldwide acceptance of robots. The young will then teach the wiser, but more jaded older generations. I would love to see robot spaces in every library and scientific museum. Not as exhibits to stand and look at, but places where people can go and interact with a robot. Like test driving a car to know what you are getting before you bring one into your life. These 3 E's cover the first line of effort. The second one is focused on standardization for future robotic and AI developments. I recently spoke with Ben Taylor, and we were discussing if society could maintain control of robots in the future. I proposed an agency similar to the FDA for robots. I want to broaden that to the World Health Organization for robots. I feel we need an organization that will establish standards and guidelines we all must adhere to gain approval to manufacture and sell a robot. The organization will be consumer safety driven, but also directly address ethical concerns associated with cognitive robots. So data, and more data. Can you imagine the amount of data that will be generated by every single one of these bots? Therefore, the first seat proposed on my council is going to be a data scientist. We need clean and clear and compatible data analytics, showing people what their robot can do, but also protecting and presenting the data in an easy to understand and utilize manner. We will address concerns over who owns the data. No sale of personal data to third parties by the manufacturers of their robots. Establishing laws protecting robot owners from their own robots' data being used against them for any human against another. There are currently 3 laws of robotics, as stated here by Infinite.
The first law states, a robot may not injure a human being or, through an action, allow a human being to come to harm. The second law states, a robot must obey the orders given it by human beings except where such orders would conflict with the first law. The third law states, a robot must protect its own existence as long as such protection does not conflict with the first or second laws.
I propose the addition of a 4th law regarding the data generated by cognitive robots.
Mike's fourth law of robotics states, a robot's data must not be used to harm any human physically, emotionally, or financially.
So I know it will need some tweaking, but I think it will be a good start toward building a human bill of rights when it comes to robots. Good data presented in a clear and insightful way will lift us over the perception obstacle and establish a new normal of robots in every home. My dream is to see a robot in every home, helping to lessen the workload, allowing families more time to spend together, enjoying each other's company. I am beyond ready for this pandemic to be over, but I will say I've truly enjoyed the extra time I have gotten to spend with my family. Due to remote learning at school, I even had time to attend a DATAcated conference. Please drop me a comment and connect with me on LinkedIn or via my website, Next Era Innovations, that has all my social media links. Thank you for your time, and now I believe we have time for some questions.
Hello, thank you so much for that, Mike. Wow, amazing presentation. You always bring it. I checked out your podcast with Ben Taylor. Great stuff over there as well with Data Robot. I love also your fourth law that you've added to those three laws. Great addition. Yes, please, let's not harm humans or people or anyone really. And we have a lot of questions and comments coming in here. Aaron says, you're amazing. Just wow. Katina loves your 3 E's. And I want to get to some more questions and comments. Rody says your parents must be so proud. I don't know if your parents are there with you. They can wave hi if they like. I'm sure they're very
waving right now.
Awesome. Let's see. So there was a question here from Robert. I don't know if you think this far ahead, given that you're 12, but where do you see yourself at 10, 15 years from now?
Okay, 10, 15 years from now. Ooh, that's a good question. Well, probably growing my startup and probably the CEO of another robotic company. That's where I hope to be.
Okay, so keeping it, you're going to be a CEO of some companies, but I'm sure that will transform over time because all the changes in technology. Yeah. Question that I also had on my mind, Katina's asking, when do you think we'll have these helper robots?
Well, you know, I think the helper robots, in a sense, we're kind of at a point there now where we're just refining our areas. For example, the Roomba is a very perfect example of this. It's a single task robot meant to do the vacuuming. And now we're seeing better advances in robotic arms, etc., that can help us in other areas. So I think it might be in the next 2 to 3 years we can have a full suite of these single task robots.
All right, I'm looking forward to it. Bring it on. Orlando's asking, how would you define a cognitive robot?
Okay, so I think cognitive robot is something that can sense around and, you know, a level, say 4 to 5, and on the autonomous or cognitive scale. You know, we're talking with Ben Taylor, we kind of made this idea of the 0 to 10. So I think cognitive kind of begins at 4 to 5, where it can sense other things and think kind of, again, like a Roomba in a sense, without, you know, no, we're not, you know, 10 is the idea of full human activity. It can think like a human, common sense, everything like that. So I think that 4 to 5 Roomba style range is kind of where I'm thinking cognitive should be.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Interesting question from George here. Do you have a robot controlling your slides?
No, I do not have a robot controlling my slides. I do have a clicker though that I've set down, but yeah, this is here's my clicker.
Got it. Oh, there you go. It's somewhat of a robot. It's just you have to control it.
Yeah.
Another question here from Aaron. Mike, what do you do in your free time?
So yeah, you know, being 12, I'm still a kid, so I, you know, got Hot Wheels track around the corner here. I love to build Legos. I play video games with my friends. I have a whole driving simulator rig and basketball, swimming, you know, everything along those lines. Racing, I love to go into sports car races where all the Corvettes, Lamborghinis, Ferraris, and race together in endurance races. And I love to figure out the idea, the technology behind that as well. So yeah, of course, I'm still a kid.
Yes, that's great. That's great that you're still enjoying your childhood while also running a company and wrapping up high school. This is amazing. I think we'll take one more question from the audience here from John. What do you think is the next big hurdle in robotics?
Okay, so I think the next big hurdle, there's quite a few, of course, but I think that the biggest one, as I was kind of stating before, is the whole perception. Again, you know, we think we're going to get the Terminator soon when we're not even to that point dreaming of that yet. So I think right now is perception again. You know, we also think robots can do backflips and do all these kind of cool stuff, but we're not to that point yet. So I think that's the biggest deal is perception at this point.
Got it. Absolutely. Well, Mike, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to speak at the DATAcated conference. I really appreciate it. You have so many fans out there that we literally could not get to all the comments, even if we stayed on for hours today. If you have time to go on LinkedIn and address some of those, please go ahead and do that. Awesome. Well, thank you again. I will see you online as I see everyone else.
And you can please follow me at any of these areas on LinkedIn. I'm open to any connections.
Absolutely. Follow Mike Wimmer. He is the future. There are a lot of comments that the future is bright with this one. So I absolutely agree.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mike. Okay. At this point, you are about to experience something I've not done at a conference yet, but I wanted to try something new. And this is actually a trivia challenge part of the event. Before we get to that, let's briefly hear a little bit more about ThoughtSpot.
Data is now racing to the cloud. New cloud data warehouses offer speed, elasticity, and the ability to scale out fast. Plus, the biggest promise of all, faster access to data for every business person, right when you need it. How? Hello Search and AI-driven analytics from ThoughtSpot. Connecting directly to cloud data sources is easy. Then, anyone can use Search to analyze their data or get granular AI-driven insights on the go. You can deploy ThoughtSpot software in your virtual private cloud or ThoughtSpot Cloud and say goodbye to managing hardware and software. Get analytics as easy as your favorite app from ThoughtSpot.
All right, awesome. I hope you are ready for the trivia challenge. I'm going to put something up on the screen, but first, let me tell you the rules. All you have to do is use whatever social media platform you've joined us from. Probably the majority of you are on LinkedIn. Just type in your comment. You can either say A, B, C, D, or true, false, because there are some of those in there as well, or simply type out the answer. Can't wait to see how many people get everything right here, but I'm going to go ahead and introduce some of the giveaways that you're actually able to win as part of the challenge. All right. Data Literacy Level 1, it's a course that teaches you how to learn to see data from Ben Jones. He's also giving away a book, Learning to See Data. The other areas are, we're getting 3 books from PACT, and we're going to select 2 winners for each book. We've got the Economics of Data Analytics and Digital Transformation book from Bill Schmarzo, Advanced NLP with TensorFlow 2 book by Ashish Bansal, Transformers for NLP book by Dennis Rothman. Of course, I'm giving away the DATAcated storytelling course from the DATAcated Academy. And we got People Skills Analytical Thinkers book from Gilbert. I actually got a couple of those things here. We've got the Learning to See Data book. We've got some PACT books, and we've got Gilbert's book here. All right, let's go ahead and get started. So the first question we've got here is, the DATAcated conference is specifically designed for A, students, B, data analysts, data scientists, C, business leaders, or D, all of the above. So I will pause between questions to make sure I give people enough time to answer the question. But yeah, let me know what you're thinking. Who is the DATAcated conference specifically designed for? I see we have a lot of comments coming in. I'll quickly just show a couple. Wow, they're going so fast I can't even click on. So everyone seems to be saying D for the most part. I have not seen any other options come in. So I'm going to go ahead and reveal the answer. Yes, the answer is D. The DATAcated conference is definitely designed for everybody. You can actually see a word cloud there of everyone who signed up. Last I checked, there was over 6,000 registrants for the DATAcated conference. So super excited about that. All right, moving this party forward. Scott Taylor is known as the data whisperer because he speaks very quietly. Is this true or false? Now, for those who have not seen day one of the conference, he was one of the speakers during day one of the conference where we talked about extracting business value from data. And let's see how well people actually know Scott Taylor. So what are you thinking? True or false? I'm going to look a lot of B's. So a lot of people are thinking this is false. I'm going to go ahead and reveal the answer. It is false. Scott Taylor is known as the data whisperer because he whispers to data to help calm data down, but he definitely does not whisper. In fact, he actually is one of the most energetic speakers I've ever seen. He definitely brings it, and he brings it in a very loud manner. All right, question number 3. Who is the Chief Data Strategy Officer at ThoughtSpot? It's getting a little bit more difficult here, but this is to see if, who's been paying attention. So we've got A, Scott Holden, B, Cindy Hawson, C, Sudesh Nair, or D, Mohit Daswani. All right, let's see the comments that are coming in for this question here. All right, we're seeing some B's and some C's. So right now it's between Cindy and Sudesh. All right, a lot of B's, D's. Oh, people are confused on this one. B's, C's, D's, things are flying. People are tagging. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and reveal the answer. It is Cindy Hawson. She was our keynote speaker today, and she is the Chief Data Strategy Officer at ThoughtSpot. Although the other individuals' names that you saw, they were actually other executive team members of ThoughtSpot. So if you want to connect with them, go ahead and follow them on social media as well. All right, hope you're having fun. Question number 4. Blank is a community partner that has published over 6,500 books and videos. Option A, Team Data Science. B, Lights on Data. C, Pact. Or D, Business Science. Who do you think is a community partner for the DATAcated conference that has actually published over 6,500 books and videos? I can't imagine that many books. Wow, Christina's probably read them all with her book a week challenge. Let's see what the answers are coming in. We're getting a lot of B's, C's, D's, Pact, A lot of different answers, B, C's. All right, so a lot of C's. I think people are going with B. Interesting. It is not B, it is actually C. Pact Publishing is our community partner that has published over 6,500 books and videos, and they're giving away these 3 great books after the conference. Okay, I'm gonna keep things moving. Question number 5. Blank hosts the More Intelligent Tomorrow podcast designed to explore the potential impact of AI on the world around us. Got A, Pyramid Analytics, B, Snowflake, C, ThoughtSpot, or D, Data Robot. All right, let's see those comments coming in. This is actually interesting. Oh, I can't wait to see what people are thinking. Okay, a lot of folks on YouTube are saying C's and D's. C's and D's and B's. This one's kind of mixed, B's and C's, and I'm gonna go ahead and reveal this one. This might be a little tougher, but it's actually Data Robot. Data Robot hosts the More Intelligent Tomorrow podcast, a really great podcast. If you're looking for a podcast, they've actually interviewed me before. They've interviewed Mike Wimmer, who you just heard from. Definitely encourage you to go ahead and check out his session. Okay, question number 6. Mike Wimmer is 12 years old and will be graduating from high school this spring. Now, this is a true test to see who's been paying attention to the last speaker that we just had on the show. So, true or false? Is Mike Wimmer a 12-year-old who is graduating from high school this spring? Al is saying he's perfect so far. Okay, good to know, good to know. We're getting some winners for all those prizes. We have a lot of stuff to give away. A lot of A's. Yes, people are definitely paying attention. It is true. That's Mike Wimmer. He is graduating high school this spring. You know what I was doing when I was 12? I was probably in 6th grade learning English. So definitely not graduating high school. Okay, Blank is the CEO of Pyramid Analytics, an enterprise-grade analytics platform. We've got Avi Perez, Oz Tarazi, Omri Cole, or Peter Vomisil. All right, can't wait to see what people are thinking for this one. This is another slightly difficult one. If you're not familiar with Pyramid Analytics, you can actually go to pyramidanalytics.com and check them out. You'll hear a lot more from them tomorrow. But I'm going to go ahead and reveal the answer. And the answer is C. Omri Cole. He's the CEO of Pyramid Analytics. He's our keynote speaker for tomorrow. Truly can't wait to hear all about data storytelling and how he's going to deliver that. All right, question number 8. By the way, there are 12 questions, just so you know. We're at question number 8. Blank % of all data we create is ever analyzed and used. So the options are A, less than 0.5%, B, 5 to 10%, C, 11 to 19%, or D, more than 20%. It would be helpful if you actually put the percentages in the comments, because the comments are all flowing in and it's hard to tell at this point which answers people are answering with their ABCs. So let's go ahead and see those percentages. I'll wait a little bit longer here because I really want to see what people are thinking. So you've heard others talk yesterday and today that, you know, there's so much data and every day we're getting more and more data and it's big data and it's everywhere. But what % of that data are we actually analyzing and using? A lot of people are saying A. All right, A, B. Raymond says 5 to 10%. I'm going to go ahead and reveal this. It's actually really surprising. At least it was for me. Less than 0.5%. Now, this is a statistic I've got the link to where I got this from. But Bernard Marr said this thing a couple of years ago. I was truly shocked by less than 0.5%. That's almost nothing. I truly hope that percentage goes up because we're paying so much money, all these companies to gather data and to store data. We've got to be using that data. All right, moving on to question number 9. Now, Gilbert E. is how I'll say his last name, author of People Skills for Analytical Thinkers, used to work as a professional what? Was he a golfer, poker player, race car driver, or pilot? I'll admit, I'm having so much fun with this trivia. Hopefully you're having fun as well. So what do you think? He's the author of this book. I've started reading this book. Really interesting so far. Thank you, Gilbert. Can't wait for you guys to hear this answer. Let's see who knows Gilbert here. A lot of C's, A's, and B's. I'm gonna go golfer, poker player. I'm gonna go ahead and reveal the answer. Gilbert used to be a professional poker player. He actually has an article on LinkedIn where he compares playing poker with other aspects of life and business. If you want to go ahead and check that out. I thought it was really interesting. Okay, question number 10. At blank, our mission is to help people learn the language of data. So whose mission is this? Data Literacy LLC, Lights on Data, Data Science Infinity, or the DATAcated Academy? All right, let's see what people are thinking. I'll repeat the question. So at blank, our mission is to help people learn the language of data. That's so important. Can't wait to see. All right. Comments are going actually too fast. I can't even click on them. There they go. All right. So we've got D, A, B. I guess this one's a little bit more tough because the mission is, it can be very broad. So I'm going to go ahead and reveal the answer here. It is Data Literacy LLC. They're on a mission to help people learn the language of data. We've got Becky Jones and Ben Jones here. They're co-founders of Data Literacy LLC. And they're also providing the course giveaway and the book giveaway today. All right, 2 questions left. Question number 11. Data Literacy for Kids is authored by myself, Kate Fashny, and one more person. So we co-authored this book. Was it Kirk Bourne? Was it Jordan Morrow? Was it Cindy Hawson? Or was it George Farrakhan? What are your thoughts? Share your thoughts. So the Data Literacy for Kids is an ebook. We've yet to make this into a paperback or a hardcover when we get some more breathing time. But right now it's basically an ebook meant for children to learn a little bit more about data. So I'm going to go ahead and go to the answer here. It is Jordan Morrow. So you're going to hear from Jordan Morrow tomorrow. There's a picture of the Data Literacy for Kids book up there. And then going on to the last question here. Blank is a data science advisor, astrophysicist, space scientist, and TEDx speaker. Who could it be? Is it Brent Dykes? Is it Christina Stathopoulos, Miko Yuck, or Kirk Bourne? Please let me know in the comments. So this is their last trivia question. I hope you enjoyed this trivia session. If you did, please let me know. You can send me a message or comment in the chat here, because if you like it, I'll bring this back again at another conference in the future. So who do you think it is? Data science advisor, astrophysicist, space scientist, and TEDx speaker. All right, I'm gonna actually go to the comments to see what people are saying, to see if they're getting this right. Okay, we've got D, B, a lot of people commenting, a lot of different letters, B, D. I'm sure somebody's just hopping onto the chat on LinkedIn. They're like, why is everyone giving us the alphabet? A lot of Kirk Bourne's, B, D, A. It's kind of all over the place. So I'm gonna go ahead and reveal the winner is Kirk Bourne. So Kirk Bourne is a data science advisor, astrophysicist, space scientist, and TEDx speaker. That's me and Kirk Bourne right there. I believe this was in Boston when I met Kirk in person at the Open Data Science Conference. And guess what? One more fact about Kirk Bourne is he is our next speaker. So I'm very excited to introduce Kirk Bourne, and I'm going to go ahead and provide a brief bio before I bring him up on stage. So Kirk Bourne, Dr. Kirk Bourne, is the principal data scientist, data science fellow, and executive advisor at global technology and consulting firm Booz Allen Hamilton, based in McLean, Virginia. In those roles, he focuses on applications of data science, data management, machine learning, and artificial intelligence across a wide variety of disciplines. He also provides leadership training, mentoring to multidisciplinary teams of data scientists. He previously was a professor of astrophysics and computational science at George Mason University. Prior to that, he worked 18 years on data systems for NASA's space science programs. He is a sought-after global speaker on data-related topics and has been named consistently since 2013 as a top worldwide influencer on those topics. All right, I am super excited. Kirk Bourne, bringing you up on the virtual stage. Hello.
Hey, hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I can see you. Thank you so much for joining us here today.
Well, it's funny. You just showed a picture of me wearing a suit, and now I'm wearing my DATAcated T-shirt today.
Yes.
So I'm being very informal with my DATAcated.
Awesome.
So I'm all DATAcated today. And
I love that. Well, thank you so much for being here. I was actually watching you backstage as I was managing the trivia, and I could see you. Oh my God, that's me. I could see you.
Well,
that's awesome. So I'm going to let you take it away. I'm going to hop off the virtual stage, and the floor is yours for about 10 minutes, and then we'll take some questions.
Very good. Thank you, Kate. Great to be here. Thank you all. You can see my slides. You can see my face. I think we're in good shape here. As I said, I'm informal today because Kate asked us to wear the DATAcated T-shirt. So this first slide there shows me in the T-shirt from last year's DATAcated conference. And so today we're going to be talking about machine learning and AI at the edge, insights as a service. And I added some extra words there to the listed title. And those extra words say delivering insights as a service with an observability strategy. So for me, for the last year, I've been noticing a lot of discussion. It certainly grew out of sort of the IT and the cybersecurity world around the word observability. So observability has a lot to do with observing what's going on in your systems and keeping track of everything's performance, whether there's data breaches or not, or whether it's performing normally. And so as I thought about observability, there's a lot of conversation around IT monitoring for many years. And it occurred to me that monitoring is what you do, but observability is why you do it. And so basically it's a strategy. And so observability strategy is what I'm going to talk about today. And how do we go about getting insights, and specifically insights as a service? So I want to start with a story. I always like data storytelling. And when I was applying to speak to this conference, so Kate had an online speaker request form if you wanted to apply to speak at this conference. So if you ever do that in the future, I hope some of you will do that. Anyway, so I was torn between what session I wanted to be in, because I'm a big fan of data storytelling and data literacy. But anyway, it ended up in this sort of trends, AI and machine learning trends session, because I really feel this is an interesting trend right now. But I always start with a story. And the story begins with this little quote from a famous baseball philosopher. Some of you probably know Yogi Berra. He said all kinds of funny things. For example, you can see a lot by just looking. And so the story goes, actually, it's about a Le Mans race, a Formula One race in Europe in the 1950s. Okay, so the story doesn't really have anything to do with data analytics, but you'll see in a minute what it has to do about insights discovery. And so the story goes, and this picture that I just want to mention, the picture in the slide here is not from the 1950s. It's from a recent Formula One race. Just a little bit of eye candy in the slide here, but the race goes way back to the 1950s. And so it has to do with this being able to see a lot by just looking, or what I like to say is being able to see around corners. So insights out as a service is about getting insights about something that's happening in your environment to allow you to see something before it happens, see something before you are able to see it otherwise through direct observation, therefore see around corners. And that's what insights are for me. It's like you have an understanding, you have this sort of early warning bells going off in your head. Well, not in your head in this case, in your data, that tells you something bad is about to happen or something interesting is about to happen, to be prepared. So the story goes, this race driver was driving this race, and then many drivers anyway. So there was a long straightaway. So if you're familiar with Formula One racing, it goes through city streets, big cities. And so there's very long stretches where they have straight roads and crowds are alongside the road cheering for the drivers as they race by. And then they come to the end of that road, and they have to make a sharp turn down some other street. So the cars go extremely fast, and then they had to slow down dramatically in order to turn the corner, to turn that sharp turn in that city's streets to race down another street. So it's not like a normal oval race where you can sort of keep a sort of steady speed around the oval. There's really fast portions and really slow portions in these kinds of races. And so what happened in this particular race is they went down this very long straightaway with all the crowds cheering. And as the race car drivers turned the corner, there was a crash. So no one could see the crash because they were going down the straightaway. They couldn't see around the corner. So that they would the next car would come around that corner and crash because they couldn't see that, they couldn't stop in time to avoid the crash. And so there was a sequence of crashes and pileups that happened right around that corner. Of course, no one could see it until they got around the corner. Then it was too late. But there was one driver who went down that straightaway really fast, like everyone else. And then when he got to that corner, he took the corner more wide. He instead of taking a sharp turn, he took a wide turn, a cautious turn around the corner. He avoided the crash, and ultimately he won the race. And at the end of the race, there was all this press hanging around him, and I'm not exactly sure how this worked, but I would imagine it was something like this. They were praising him for his skill as a driver and how fantastic he was at avoiding the crash in order to win the race. And as they were praising him for his skills, he was just shaking his head saying, no, that's not what happened. That's not what happened. And they said, well, what do you mean that's not what happened? And he said, I just knew something was wrong. I just knew something was not right. I didn't know, but in hindsight, I now understand what happened. I understand why I did what I did. And that is when I was driving down that straightaway, going really fast. Normally the crowd is watching the driver go by, but the crowd was looking down the street. They were not looking at me. He said, normally people will turn their heads real fast as the cars race by. People turn their head real fast. That's what you do in a race like that. The crowd is waiting for that moment when the car comes racing by full speed. And he said, but their heads were all turned looking elsewhere. They weren't looking at me. And I didn't realize it at the time, but in hindsight, I realized that my intuition told me something was not right because all the heads were looking in that direction. And so basically, he got feedback. He got data from the sensors in his environment, which is the crowd. And those sensors could see from their vantage point in the stands on the side of the street. They could see around that corner and see there was a crash. And that's what they were looking at. So those sensors were detecting something that the driver himself could not see. From the vantage point of his car, a low car, very low to the ground, in the middle of the street, could not see around the corner, but the sensors at a higher vantage point could see. So actually, in taking into account all this extra sensor information, intuitively, he was able to avoid the crash and win the race. But the message is that if we use our other data sensors, and not just the ones that are right in front of our face, but others that are in our environment, we're able to get sort of cognitive and contextual insights, even predictive insights to things that are about to happen. In other words, being able to see around the corner. And so, yeah, we can see a lot by just looking. And that means not just looking at what's right in front of us, but what are the other sensors telling us? And a very good example of this is self-driving cars. If all you have is one single camera at the front of your self-driving car looking straight down the street, deciding what you should, how the car should drive, what the car should be doing, you really miss all the context on the side of the road. There might be children playing on the side of the road. There might be a ball game and the ball might roll into the street. You have to be prepared for something that might happen when you see these things happening in the environment around you. So being cognitive and contextual like that gives you insights in how better to respond than just having the one single sensor. So how do we accomplish this in our world is we have sensors now on everything. We're basically putting sensors on everything. And I like to say, people, the Internet of Things is just basically saying, well, the Internet used to be a thing. Now things are the Internet. So what all those things give you is context. What all those sensors give you is that contextual data, those early warning signs, those early warning signals that either tell you that everything is happening normal. There's no abnormality in their environment, whether it's your business or your customers, or an airplane or a machine shop or your car engine or an online shopping platform, whatever. If the sensors are saying everything is just moving along normally from all the context in the world, context in the economy, context in events in the world, whatever, then you could keep moving along smoothly. But if you get some kind of disruption in those normal flows of data, those normal signals, those normal patterns in the data, if there's some kind of new emerging pattern, then that might be the early warning sign like that race car driver picked up. So now context is basically everywhere, okay? We now have access to context from all these sensors everywhere. So from the Internet of Things, I now like to just call that the Internet of Context, because context is essentially everywhere. So Internet of Things is more than just monitoring. Like I said earlier, people talked a lot about monitoring for many years, monitoring systems, monitoring services, monitoring platforms, monitoring devices, monitoring your e-commerce or your network logs, all kind of things. But observability is a strategy. Okay, so you want to do more than just monitor. You want to do more than just collect data. So I'm going to read through the words here because there's a lot of words on this slide, and I put them there intentionally because they actually convey my message. So excuse me while I read the words. I hate reading words on slides, but this is really part of my message here. That deploying sensors everywhere guarantees a data deluge. Ouch, we don't need more data necessarily. In fact, in the next line, it says we don't really need more information. What we need is more insights. That's the truth. What we need is more insights, not just more data and more bits. So consequently, our IoT deployments need to be smart. That is, if we're going to put sensors in everything and start collecting deluges and massive floods of data, then we better be smart about it. So what do we mean by being smart? Well, first of all, we're talking about being cognitive, contextual, and even predictive, as I just mentioned. And it's really cool that Mike Wimmerle is just talking about cognitive robots and cognitive AI, because that's really where we're moving. We're moving towards this sort of cognitive world where we don't just have data streams coming from a single source. We have all that contextual information that help us navigate our world safely, just as that race car driver navigated that turn safely. So smart is not just cognitive and contextual, but it's also smart in the sense that it takes deliberate decisions in corporations and organizations on where and when we place sensors, where and when and how we collect data in order to get those insights. And so they need to be strategic decisions, strategic placement, strategic data collection in organizations. And therefore, strategic focuses on the missions and outcomes. Consequently, we're talking about a strategy now. So observability strategy is how you get to having more insights and not just more information. So if we want insights as a service from our sensors everywhere, it has to be strategic. It has to meet mission objectives, not just floods of data being poured into a cloud or poured into a data center. Then what do we do with all this stuff? Okay, so again, monitoring is what you do. Sensors are how you do it, but observability is why you do it. And the insights you gain from these data are your rewards for doing it. The insights are your rewards. That's really what it's about. Now, if you can put APIs on these sensors, so now anyone can basically subscribe to sensor data or even subscribe to patterns in data, which is even smarter. Put an AI, put a machine learning app at the sensor. And there are now processors that go on sensors that can actually do deep learning and AI at the point of data collection. And so people can actually subscribe through an API to the insights from a sensor. So you really do have insights as a service. And you can imagine that you can even have a business model here where you could sell those insights. You can sell those API accesses, so subscriptions to other organizations and to other people. So insights as a service is part of your observability strategy. So the three things you can do with this insights as a service, I just list sort of three things here quickly, and then I'm going to wrap up. excuse me. First, cognitive analytics, like I just said. So cognitive is really about that. Why is this weird thing happening? Why is this funny thing happening in my data? Why is why is the crowd looking down the street and not looking at me? That sort of thing. So cognitive analytics, for me, I define that as discovering the right questions you should be asking your data. So it's not like descriptive analytics. Descriptive analytics is the opposite. Descriptive is said, here are the questions. So a typical business analyst is given here's your questions. Here's the questions I want you to answer. Cognitive analytics is, hey, what are the questions I should be asking? There's something funny on my data, a funny trend, a funny pattern, something that's not normal. So cognitive analytics is one thing you can do with insights as a service. Another thing is this precursor analytics. So it's not exactly predictive analytics. It's about seeing around corners. So you don't know exactly when or what or how it's going to happen, but you know something's going to happen. So it's not exactly predictive analytics, which is very specific, that this customer will click on that, or this disease, this particular pattern and medical data is diagnosed with this particular disease. So predictive analytics is more about getting the specific classification right. Precursor analytics is about seeing those early warning signs. And I like to call that forecasting as a service. Okay, so I actually talk about precursor analytics and a little self-ad here. I have an online course that you can find, and if you want to click through there, the slides for this particular talk are at the listed there, and I'll show you that link again on the next slide. Get these slides, and you can click on the links that you see in the slide here, and where I talk about precursor analytics and forecasting as a service. And the third thing you do is set what I call sentinel analytics. Okay, a sentinel is the guard on the guard post, keeping people alerted in the barracks at night. Everything is clear, or the enemy is coming, right? And so the sentinel is there also to be reassuring that everything is fine, there's no problem, or if there is a problem, everybody wake up and address it. Okay, so sentinel analytics can be just basically giving you reassurance for compliance sake and for comfort's sake that things are working well. And I like to call it like picking up the good vibrations. That is, your data is just humming along. There's no weird anomalies. There's no hiccups. There's no strange patterns emerging. Everything is just humming the good vibrations from your data. So sentinel analytics is sort of watching and making sure that things are working. But if you don't have a sentinel there, how do you know? Right? So observability, putting sensors on things that you need to keep an eye on, is very significant, even when there is nothing bad happening. Like the precursor analytics might be an early warning of something. Sentinel analytics could be both that and at the same time that reassurance, the good vibrations. And so finally, just want to say thanks for listening. We are hiring data professionals at Booz Allen Hamilton. We have tons of openings. We're looking for people, data scientists, data engineers, cloud engineers, AI and machine learning developers. Follow the links here. Hope you can join us. Thanks for listening today. I talked pretty fast in order to meet my time limit. I don't know if I met my time limit or not, Kate, but thanks for not cutting me off there. And thank you all.
Yes, I was just about to jump in, but you wrapped up, Kirk. So thank you so much. You do still have some time for questions. So you did great. We can take at least 2-3 questions, which I love.
That was Formula One speaking real fast and then sudden.
Yes, zooming past. Yes, you have a lot of comments and questions that flew in here. Jeanette says she, loves the presentation. Captain Kirk, what a great way to see insights. Alberto loves your F1 analogy. Data is everywhere. And we did have several questions come in. I'm just going to go ahead and scroll to one. There's an interesting one here from Katina. She says, how do you add sensors to a non-physical idea like a process? How can observability help you in processes?
Well, it depends upon what you mean by process. You mean if it's a human process, then sometimes there's paper documents, right? I mean, there's emails. So there's some kind of digital trail of the process. And so the process normally, just say, for example, a simple claims application processing. If something is getting hung up in the process, it usually would take you maybe a day or half a day for to go from step A to step B. But if something is sitting and not moving for many days, that's an early warning sign that something is wrong with that in the process or with that particular claim. And so, assuming that there's digital trails of some kind and it's in processes, hopefully we have a lot of those. Then you can look for sort of patterns. For example, the frequency at which things are happening, if that frequency changes, for example. I mean, you can give whole talks on process mining, which I don't have time for today, but that's one way to do it.
Absolutely. Thank you. A question here from Robert. Can this technology be used to detect early heart attacks?
Well, yes, I think so. I think people who have Fitbits and other wearable devices and heart sensors, I was just using a little oxygen sensor that one of my daughters gave me for Christmas before I sat down. And I said, oh, my heart rate is picking up here. Oh, that's because I'm 1 minute late for signing on to StreamYard. So, yes. But again, yeah, so what I'm saying here is that you can see these changes in your health sensors, right? And your heart condition, your heart pulse rate, body temperature, oxygen sensors. That was what I was wearing this morning. So it doesn't mean that's going to predict a heart attack. I would leave that to the doctor. But if it's an early warning sign that you have a health condition, that will get you to the doctor faster to address whatever might be going on for you. So in some sense, yes, it's predictive of that, but most importantly, I want to say it's a precursor, early warning sign of that. So you go get an expert's opinion on what's going on.
Yeah, we're definitely getting closer to that. And then lastly, there's a comment here from Kimberly that I truly agree with. Captain Kirk, you never ever disappoint. Enlightening presentation as always.
Thank you.
Yes, I wholeheartedly agree with that. Absolutely. And we have so many more questions and comments coming in, but I know we are at time. If you do have time to hop over to LinkedIn and answer some of those questions, please do. But I understand you're a very busy person. So at this point, I thank you for your time, and I'm going to see you on Twitter. I'll see you on LinkedIn. Thank you again for doing this.
Yep, I'll jump over to LinkedIn. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. So before I bring in our next speaker, I'm just going to briefly let you hear a little bit more about DataRobot, who they keynoted yesterday. So if you missed that, here's a quick little snippet.
Hi, everyone. It's Richard from DataRobot. And we just want to say thanks. AI is nothing more than a science project unless it solves the challenges you face every day. Over the last decade, we listened to you, took your feedback, and baked it right into our products. You asked us to support text, images, geospatial, and time series data. You wanted us to build an MLOps product that continuously learns. You taught us that fairness, value, and performance in the real world is just as important as accuracy and AUC. So here's to the next decade. We just want you to know we're obsessed with building what you need.
All right, at this point, I'd love to introduce our next speaker, Gabriela de Quiroz. I hope I said your name right. She's going to talk to us about no matter the trend, statistics will always be there. I truly can't wait for her presentation. Gabriela is a senior machine learning manager at IBM, where she manages and leads a team of developers working on data and AI open source projects. She works to democratize AI by building tools and launching new open source projects. She's passionate about making data science available to everybody and is actively involved in several organizations to foster an inclusive community. She's the founder of AI Inclusive, a global organization that is helping to increase the representation and participation of gender minorities in AI. She's also the founder of Our Ladies, a worldwide organization for promoting diversity in the R community with more than 180 chapters in over 45 countries. She has worked in several startups where she's built teams, developed statistical models, and employed a variety of techniques to derive insights and drive data-centric decisions. All right, I'm going to go ahead and bring Gabriela up on our stage. Hello, Gabriela. Welcome to the DATAcated Conference Day 2.
Hello, thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Did I say your name right?
Yes, it was perfect.
Awesome. All right. I will not waste any more time. I'm going to hop off the stage and let you take it away to talk about no matter the trend, statistics will always be there.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, so my name is Gabriela de Quiroz. I work for IBM as a machine learning manager, managing a team of open source developers. And I'm the founder of AI Inclusive, and I'll talk a little bit more in the end about AI Inclusive and Our Ladies, so you can check us out at the website. If you want to get in touch with me, There is my Twitter handle and some additional information on the link tree. So even though we were talking about, what my team does that's around AI and open source and data, I'm here to talk about statistics. So I'm not going to be talking about AI. I'm not going to be talking about machine learning. I'll be talking about statistics. So oops, let me go back to my presentation. Yes. So we all hear about artificial intelligence today. We heard a lot about great insights around AI, ML, and deep learning. And, if you search on Google for these words, it's like the top things that are going to show up. Is if you look for data scientist skills are going to be showing up as well, right? So we all talk about these three main topics, AI, ML, and deep learning. But where is statistics? Where is the statistics in all this world of like AI, ML, and deep learning? Because we don't talk as much about the statistics as I think we should be talking, right? So where is the statistics? Where is the field of statistics that has been around for so many years, and nowadays it's hard to find? And if you go and ask a data scientist, any data scientist, senior data scientist, junior data scientist, mid-level data scientist, if you ask them, what is the algorithm that you use the most in your career? It's not going to be neural network. It's not going to be something fancy. It's going to be logistic regression. So the majority of the problems that we encounter in the industry and even in academia, you can solve having a very good accuracy using logistic regression. So again, even though we hear a lot about deep learning and there is all these fancy models that we can use, in the end, when you're applying something in your job, logistic regression is going to do a very, very, very good job. And I myself can relate to this because the majority of models that I create throughout my career was 80% they were logistic regressions. So there is a Kaggle survey 2020, the State of Data Science and Machine Learning survey that was ran by Kaggle, where one of the findings was, which I was not surprised. So the most commonly used algorithms were linear and logistic regression, followed closely by decision trees and random forest, right? So statistical methods, they are required to find answers to the questions that we have about data. So all the questions, when we get the data, all the questions that we have around the data, the hypothesis that we are creating and the answers that we are looking for, it's going to be found through, for example, EDA, exploratory data analysis, right? And if you know statistics, you understand better machine learning because machine learning is built upon statistics. And there is this glossary that I really like. There are others more like broad and that they have more definitions and comparison. Is if you come from statistics or if you come from machine learning background, how do you translate the words between one field to the other? For example, what we call model, for example, in machine learning, you could call like network. Another interesting one is like when we are feeding as a statistician, you are learning as a machine learning. There are several other ones like confusion matrix, and then the predictions, the inference, they have like different meaning in one field or the other. Another thing about statistics is because neural network that we all talk about all the time, they are somewhat related to logistic regression. So if you have an understanding of logistic regression, for example, it's going to be much easier for you to understand the math, the thinking behind the neural network. So it's kind of like you can think of like logistic regression as a one-layer neural net. And there is a lot for us to know as a data scientist. It doesn't matter if you are starting as a data scientist, you are trying to change careers and becoming a data scientist, or if you are senior data scientist, there are always new skills and things that we need to know, right? So if we search for important skills for data scientists, you're going to get this huge list of like technical skills that you should know. So for example, you should know Python, you should know Hadoop, you should know Spark, you should know SQL, you should know machine learning, AI, data visualization, and the list it goes on and on and on, right? But think about this. What are the main things that we all use every day? So another survey that I thought was, not news. We are still in this process. There was a state of data science report that Anaconda released last year. And if you see this plot over here, you can see that the majority of the time, the data scientists, they are spending on data loading, data cleansing, data visualization. So that's a big chunk. And then later, like very, very small percentage is the model training, the scoring, or deploying models. So think about what you need the most to do your work. Like 80% of your work probably is going to be around data cleaning, right? So creating insights, trying to get insights from the data, thinking about what the data can tell you. And the statistics is going to help you on that process. So remember that statistics is not an old field that you don't need to know. It's the base for everything. And I also think that statistics will give you one of the most important skills as a person, as a data person, as a data scientist, which is the critical thinking. So with statistics, all the questions that we come up to have the data be answered for us, it's around the critical thinking. So remember about that. The critical thinking is one of the most important skills that I think we data scientists need to have. And I love this quote where, they say that when you are fundraising, so if you are a company, a startup, and you are looking for money to sponsor your company, you are doing the fundraising, you say that what you are doing is AI. Oh, I'm doing all these very complicated models. We are using AI, the new technology. And then when you are hiring someone, you say, oh, no, this is machine learning. We are doing machine learning. But when you are actually implementing your model, it's probably going to be logistic regression. We don't say much, I think, in the world that we do a lot of logistic regression, but that is the reality. Like the majority of the models that we do, it's very simple. We don't need to go that far to create something that's meaningful, right? So that's all I had to share. I know that I only had 10 minutes. I want to thank you all for being here. My contact is this QR code if you want to add me on LinkedIn. And also AI Inclusive, which I didn't mention, but I'm going to mention here, is AI Inclusive is our organization to bring more diversity to AI. And we have like several things that we offer. For example, scholarship, events, free tickets for conferences, a lot of knowledge, a lot of material that we share with the community. And for the next 2 weeks, we are running this scholarship with a Fourth Brain. Fourth Brain is a machine learning school. They have a 16-week program where you can join and you can become a machine learning engineer in 16 weeks. And we are offering one full tuition scholarship with the value of $6,000. So if you are interested, you have 2 weeks to apply using the link below. And I hope you got some insights. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that, Gabriela. I love that you ended with this great opportunity for people to apply for the scholarship. If they didn't capture the link, maybe after you're done with the Q&A, if you could post that link into the comment section on LinkedIn so they can simply click it and go ahead and apply. Great opportunities, $6,000 worth of learning. That's a lot of learning. So thank you for sharing that. I'm going to hop into some of the comments that we received here. Ari Full says, statistics always be there. Love it. Absolutely. You made a lot of people happy with statistics. So Albert says his little nerd heart is so happy right now.
I'm surprised because usually people attack the statistics, right? They say, oh, no, you don't have to know statistics. It's all about AI. And
well, it's all about statistics. I mean, I love that when in the presentation you looked up all the skills that people need to become, a professional in data. But then it really comes down to cleaning data, loading data, visualizing data. And we need to make sure we get that baseline first, learn statistics, learn how everything works, and then you can go deeper. Let's see, Naman says he feels statistics plays a key role in developing different algorithms. Yes, absolutely. Svetlana loves AI inclusive. She thinks it's absolutely amazing. So that's great. Where would people go to find out more about AI inclusive?
So if they go to our website, so ai-inclusive.org,
okay,
there is a lot of information, social media, the scholarship. We had another scholarship that finished a few weeks ago, but we are doing another round with DataQuest as well. So we are always offering scholarship to our community.
That's amazing. Question here from Matthew. He's asking, what resources would you recommend for those getting started in statistics late in their career?
Yeah, so there are a lot of great courses. One of the sponsor for the company, for the conference today, that Matt runs the business, help me, data science business.
Oh, Matt Dancho, Business
Matt,
Science University, yes.
Yes. So he has a great course. There is a great material that he runs. Any DataQuest, they have also a good path in statistics. There are several books. I would try to get away or not buy the very mathy heavy books that we used to have when I was doing my statistics courses. Try to see something that is more applied, where you can get some data and then get insights, something that's more applied, less mathematical, at least for beginning.
Mm-hmm. Okay, absolutely. And then Fernando is asking, what is the difference between statistical learning and machine learning? Because sometimes he sees them both used, they both use the same algorithm.
Not much. I would say one is when you have maybe less data, and the other one it's more scalable in a way, but they are very similar. And even if you compare, one is built on top of the other. So there are some differences, but they pretty much the same thing.
Okay. Katina's asking, what other concepts in statistics are important other than logistic regression? What are some of the foundational ones?
Well, then you have linear regression, which is the basic one. There is one concept which is correlation, and I have a fun story here. I used to mentor some folks from a boot camp, and I remember they going through interviews, and one of the questions they got asked through the interview process is, oh, can you calculate the correlation here? And they had no idea what correlation was, because correlation wasn't covered in this boot camp. Okay. So correlation, it's another one. Thinking about when we talk, I think the audience probably have heard about A/B tests. So A/B testing is nothing other than hypothesis tests behind the scenes or design of experiments, right? So that's another very important concept, because I would say all the companies, they do some type of A/B tests.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. Yeah, moving on to Julie. Julie says, that was great. You've reinforced my inclination to continue to study statistics. So you're moving people in the right direction here. Question from Waleed. Any book suggestions? I know you suggested a course from Matt Dancho. What about books?
Yeah, so let's see. I have a bunch of books over here, but I would say that mine's, let me show you one. Okay. So this one is applied, a very good book, and it's applied. So something along this line. There is a more theoretical book before this one. It's huge, but there is no application in R, so I would not start with that one. This one is a good book. So see if there are some books with stats and Python as well. I don't remember all the names at the top of my head, but look always for something that you can apply using a programming language, for example.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's easier to learn as you're applying, because then it actually sticks versus just reading concepts and becoming familiar with them. Question from George Sherrigan here. Do you think statistics should be a course that's a must-have to be covered in high school? I see you nodding vigorously here.
I wish I had, and I think I could be wrong, but I think the majority of American schools, they have some kind of statistics class. So it is very, very important.
Yes, absolutely. There are a lot of book recommendations that are coming up there. Statistics for Dummies. I guess anything for dummies usually is good. People are saying thank you so much. They really enjoyed your conversation here. Albert said his full of nerd nourishment here today. Last question we'll take from the live audience here from Andre. How many people are trying to get into data science without a stats background?
So many, so many, like so many. Yeah, I have no idea. I can say like a lot from what I see. So yeah, it's too many. So from like, being a hiring manager, I see also like a lot, like they have no idea about statistics. They don't have any statistics background. So they especially coming from some places, some courses, so they don't have this foundation, which I think it's very important.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, why would you need a foundation, right? What do you need a foundation for? I think it's also very important. Gabriela, I know we are at time now and we still have a lot of questions and comments flowing in, but at this point, I will thank you so much for joining us here today. I know this probably felt really, really fast. That's what all the speakers have been telling me, that it kind of flew by because of the lightning speed talks, but I think that's what the audience actually likes about the DATAcated conference, is they get these little nuggets quickly from experts like yourself. So thank you again.
Thank you.
All right, I'll see you online, Gabriela. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and bring on our big closer for day 2 of the DATAcated conference. Her name is Ina Sabuschuk. I hope I said her name correctly. And her talk title is Better Late Than Never. Leverage your existing experience for a fulfilling career in data science. Dr. Ina Sabuschuk holds a master's degree in statistics and a PhD in social psychology. She has over 10 years of experience analyzing and visualizing data and has presented her research internationally. She has taught university students at Hunter College in New York City and IE University in Madrid. Most recently, she worked as a data scientist at Nextail Labs, integrated AI, machine learning, and the latest data visualization techniques to measure impact and demonstrate the value Nextail adds to retail companies. Currently, she's a senior data project manager globally for Levi Strauss & Co. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and bring on Ina. Hello, welcome to the DATAcated conference.
Hi, can you see me?
I can see you. Yes, I can see you. I can hear you. I'm not going to take up any more of your time. I'm going to hop off stage and let you take it away.
Perfect. Okay, there's so much that I want to tell you guys about that I'm just going to jump right in. And my talk is a little bit about for you beginners that are interested in joining our data world and how you can do that. So the first thing that I want to do is kind of get on the same page about terminology, because we always talk about data science, artificial intelligence, machine learning, all of these different types of concepts. But in reality, a data scientist does a very different job in one company than from another company. So you might be familiar with this graphic because it sort of shows you the 3 big areas of knowledge that you need to have, as Gabriela just mentioned. Math and stats is certainly one of them, but also business knowledge and computer science. And what I really want to focus on is the fact that depending on which of these areas you're more interested in, you can kind of tailor your role to that area. So for example, if you are more business oriented, you can go into the business knowledge path. And if you really are more into programming and software engineering, then you go for a role that really incorporates those kinds of elements. And so now the other thing that I wanted to talk about is big data. What about it? What is the difference between data science and big data? And there certainly is one. So first of all, a regular Excel spreadsheet can handle about 1 million rows of data, whereas the most recent data set that I have been working with had 92 million rows of data. So we're talking about hundreds of gigabytes of data. And the thing is that still does not quite reach the limit of big data. So the official definition that comes from Gartner is that big data is data that contains greater variety, arriving in increasing volumes, and with ever higher velocity. So we're talking about terabytes and petabytes of data. And if you're interested with working with big data, then that really cannot be processed with traditional techniques and technologies, and you'll have to learn some extra technologies in order to be a big data professional. But it's not necessary in order to be a data scientist or analyst or a professional in the data world. So now I want to talk to you about how to get into the data world, how to get into that type of employment. So first, I want to talk about an analysis that Genevieve Hayes did in 2019, where she looked at different job ads and kind of bucketed them into different categories of different types of jobs they can have within data science. So the first one that she mentioned was a reporting and ETL analyst. So ETL stands for extraction, transformation, and loading. And this is the type of person who extracts data and then creates dashboards and creates information for business stakeholders to look at and to make decisions from. So typically a job title for a person like this would be a data analyst or a BI analyst, and they would need to know SQL for sure and Excel, and then maybe some other data visualization tools like Tableau or Power BI. The next one is a data science generalist. So this is the kind of most common one, where the job title is data scientist, and this is the type of person that is engaging in modeling, or as Gabriela mentioned just now, applying statistical techniques in order to solve business problems. So here you're going to need Python or R. It might depend on your company, it might depend on your personal preference, and certainly SQL. You will need SQL for most of the jobs that we're going to mention here. The next one is an insights analyst. Now, an insights analyst is somebody that is very similar to a reporting and ETL analyst, because this person will be building dashboards and will be extracting insight from the data, but it's a more communications oriented job. So instead of just creating a dashboard, you're also going to be giving a little bit more information and giving help to the decision makers at your job. Now, the next kind of role is a machine learning research data scientist. And this type of person develops and deploys models from a research perspective. So when you have a machine learning model, it's not enough to just create a statistical model. You have to actually put that model into production, right? Put that model into practice for the business. And a machine learning research data scientist is somebody who's going to test those kinds of models. And typically the titles that you're going to see here is just maybe data scientist or machine learning engineer. And again, this person will need a little bit of Python, R, and SQL. And the next type of job here is a machine learning software engineer. And this type of person is also very important and will probably be taking the models that the research data scientists developed and actually creating them into data science products. So if you're more interested in the software engineering side of data science, then this is kind of where you would fit in. And a title that you would have would probably be machine learning engineer. And here you'll need Python, PyTorch, a little bit of TensorFlow, different types of technologies. Then you have a platform and warehouse engineer. So just to clarify, Genevieve did this analysis in 2019. I am sure that we need a lot more data engineers now. That would probably be the title that you would see for a job like this. And the data engineers are the ones who know where all of the data is, so that when a data scientist comes in and needs to do an analysis, the data engineer sets up the pipelines, decides where the data is going to live, decides how the data scientist gets access to that data. And that's also a more technical job that you might be interested in. And finally, a data science specialist. So typically, a data science specialist is hired when a company is looking to build a very specific product that has a very specific technology associated with it. So for example, if they want to build something specifically with computer vision or specifically with natural language processing, it's when they have something very concrete in mind. And this is different from a generalist, because a generalist is expected to know a little bit about everything. And then once a particular project comes along, to maybe deep dive into that particular area. So the next thing that I want to talk to you about are the skills that data science employers want now. Obviously, you need a little bit of that math background that we talked about. Of course, you need to be able to program, but there is a set of skills that may have been ignored in the past, but that are gaining more importance now. And for example, those are things like communication skills. So you can build the most extraordinary mathematical model on the face of the earth that predicts something with 100% accuracy. But if you cannot convince a business stakeholder that this model is important, then you might as well have not built it, because it's not going to go into production and the business is not going to use it. It's very important to have organizational skills, because within data science teams, since this is such a new field, there's a lot of chaos sometimes, a lot of research, a lot of uncertainty, and sometimes processes are not put into place to the extent that they are in other parts of an organization. So if you are a person that has extraordinary organizational skills, then you would be very, very valuable to a data science team. Same thing with feedback and evaluation skills. I have a master's in statistics, and I can assure you that we did not learn how to give feedback or how to evaluate within that master's program. So if you're coming from a business background, a leadership background where you've been giving people feedback for years, this is extraordinarily valuable, because obviously both positive and negative feedback is very important for the performance of your team. And now this next one, critical thinking, extraordinarily important, because it's not enough to just want to play around with the most recent data science technologies that are out there. As data scientists, of course, we all want to, but the reality is that you need to be able to combine those technologies with what the business needs. And for that, you need to be able to think critically, and you need to be able to think creatively. Same thing for leadership and management. If you have experience in these roles, that is fantastic, because data science teams don't necessarily follow the traditional trajectory that a business team would. So maybe data scientists aren't so interested in management roles, or aren't so interested in taking leadership on a project, and really just want to focus on coding and developing their data science skills. So if you bring leadership and management skills to the table, then you're going to be extremely valuable to a data science team. And finally, creativity and innovation. I know, important in every single field, but if you feel stuck wherever you are now, and you feel like you are not exposing your maximum creative potential, data science is definitely the field for you, because we have an extraordinary amount of creativity and innovation. So if you have that to give, then we definitely want to take it from you. So how do you become a data scientist? How do you start doing these things? So the first thing is talk to as many people as possible. Become very clear about what types of data science jobs are out there and what kind of job would be right for you. And once you have that clear and you look at job advertisements, you can sort of get a sense of what kind of job is appropriate for you and what kind of job you wouldn't be happy in. Learning to program is non-negotiable. You must do it. If you are a student, if you're young, if you're just getting into the field, then of course you have more opportunities to either get a master's degree in data science or spend more time on this. But if you're already a professional that's been in the field for quite a while, then perhaps you don't have that kind of time. So I personally was in academia for 7 years before I transferred over to data science, and I did a boot camp. And the boot camp was at IE University, and it was phenomenal. I left the boot camp, and after 11 weeks of studying, I had my first job offer within 3 weeks. So learning to program is definitely something that you should consider doing. And then your work doesn't stop there. So once you finish the boot camp, you should work on your own projects independently, publish them online. There are great places where you can do this, like Kaggle or GitHub. And just think of a task in your life that is repetitive and that you would like to automate and do for yourself, and then use your data science knowledge in order to automate that task, so that you can show that you have that passion and interest and understanding of data science, even if you don't have a master's degree in a particular field. Polish your CV, make sure that it is data science friendly. If your CV is very geared towards business, make sure that it is appropriate towards data science. The other thing I would like to tell you is that a lot of data science job ads kind of include a laundry list of every single thing that exists within data science, and you absolutely do not have to have every single one of those skills. Your employers know that. So also do not lie on your CV. Be honest about what you know and what you're willing to learn. And finally, build a network that includes other data scientists. I know there's COVID going on right now, so maybe it's difficult to attend events, but we have virtual events like this. If you don't know other data scientists, well, now you know me. So you are welcome to reach out to me whenever you want. I'm sure a lot of the speakers that were here and a lot of people that attended this conference would be very happy to talk to you and give you advice. And the more that you hang out with other data scientists, the more that you'll understand the field and what you need to do in order to succeed in it. And finally, if your organization is starting a data science team, if your organization is starting some kind of department for AI in general, and you would like to transfer over to that department, I see no harm at all in asking if you can do some kind of project for that team to see if you can get access to some data, and in your free time, work on a little mini project to see if you can deliver value to your company through data. And that would be a really extraordinary first step within your own company to move over to data science. And that's it for now. I have a lot more that I would love to share with you, but if you have any questions, I am very, very happy to answer them for you.
Awesome. Ina, thank you so very much for that talk. We do have a lot of questions and comments that have been flying in for you. So hopefully you've got another couple minutes to stick around. So first of all, thank you for that presentation. I think you inspired a lot of people who are either starting out in data science or are further along in their career wanting to make that switch. You gave a lot of great tips. And I absolutely love that you mentioned organizational skills. I think people talk about the technical side of things. They talk about communication and kind of the softer side of things, but there's just the basics of even managing a project, and that organizational skill set is just so important. So thank you for mentioning that. A lot of great questions and comments. I know you mentioned a huge data set, so a lot of comments on how big that data is. And Roselle here is asking, how do you get experience handling large data sets outside of having a job with it?
I think that's an excellent question. So a great place to start is Kaggle. You're probably going to need to learn how to use some kind of cloud computing like AWS or Google or Microsoft, whatever you prefer, and because your own computer is probably not going to be able to handle analyzing all of the data. So go on to Kaggle, check out some of the competitions that they have, and then start looking into cloud computing and set up an account with one of these organizations.
Awesome, thank you for that. Another question here: how do you prove in a portfolio okay? So basically, how can you prove your SQL knowledge in a portfolio?
So typically, it wouldn't be in the portfolio. Usually when you go through a data science interview, if you put on your CV that you know SQL, then in the interview, they're going to ask you SQL questions, or they're going to actually ask you to write out a query or code. I've never gone through an interview where I didn't have to do that. So they'll be able to assess whether you know it or not.
Yes, that makes sense. Fernando's asking, what are some more business-oriented roles in data science? So I guess not the tech-heavy roles.
There are a lot. So for example, right now, I'm a product manager, and my role is to be between the business stakeholders and the AI stakeholders in order to make sure that whatever AI projects the business wants also makes sense for the AI team. And I'm a go-between because I'm able to speak both languages and then make sure that the expectations are being managed, the goals are being met, that everybody's happy and aligned on what we're going to do. So that's one of the things. Even if you do a boot camp or you learn data science terminology, you can work in a role where you speak both the business language and the tech language, and you are a kind of translator. So there is actually a job called data translator where you go between the two areas.
I can see that as being extremely important, as the business and the technical teams tend to speak different languages at times, which leads us to the next question here it's a comment from George, but I had a question as a follow-up. So he likes that communication skills are at the top of your list. And I wanted to ask, how do you think maybe people starting out in data science can actually practice their communication skills?
That's a really great question. So I would say trying your best to do events like this whenever you can get a presentation, even if it's maybe at a smaller conference and not something as extraordinary as DATAcated, then you should take that opportunity. And also practice with your family, with your friends, because the number one thing is really getting over that embarrassment, right? Mm-hmm. So when you create a project, try to explain it to somebody who knows nothing about tech. Tell your grandmother, tell whoever, like your little sister. And if they get what you're saying, then your communication skills are absolutely improving.
I absolutely agree with everything you just said. I'll add one more thing, that if you don't have family and friends, hey, some people might not, you can take a video camera, right? Take your cell phone and record yourself to practice. I think that's another thing you can do, is you can put that out on social media if you're comfortable and ask for feedback, because people are helpful and they might provide some feedback for you.
Yeah, and it might be a good start because that way you don't need to do it in front of people, actually. So you record it, but you don't have to have somebody staring at you. So
practice for the virtual world, yeah, because the way we live in now, it's like I'm in my bedroom, right? There are people listening, but they're not here. So next question is from Natasha. Any book recommendations for newbies for data science?
Oh, absolutely. So the big one, it's technically a book about how to program in R. It is called Machine Learning with R, and it's by Brett Lance. It's actually published by Pact. But it's really great because it teaches you about the machine learning algorithms and the theory behind it. And it is so digestible. I promise you that you will read this book and understand all of the concepts in it and also learn machine learning algorithms. And you can even download R and practice running the models with the data sets and everything. It's really, really, really great.
Awesome, guys, go check that out. And comment here from Jennifer. Yes, talk to people. She accidentally got a job offer because she was talking to people about what they do. I think that's awesome.
So Jennifer.
In this virtual world, what's your recommendation for talking to people? What can they do?
Well, LinkedIn is a fantastic resource. So people actually reach out to me all the time, and I make a really big effort to speak to everybody who reaches out to me. And if people ask me for advice, then I make a big effort to even schedule a call with them. So see if people that you admire are willing to speak to you. You would be surprised. All of us were once at a point where we were lost and scared and didn't know if we would get the job that we wanted or be able to come into data science or whatever. So I think that we have a lot of empathy for those of you who are trying to come into this field, and you would be surprised how welcoming people will be. So right now, LinkedIn, excellent resource. Look at the posts that you see, message those people, talk to those people, and I'm sure that they'll be willing to communicate with you. The worst that could happen is that they don't respond. Very little rejection.
Absolutely. I always recommend LinkedIn. That's actually how I got started in data, is just talking to people, and I found them all on LinkedIn. All All right, question here from Diane. I love this question. How did you achieve being able to speak both languages, business and data?
So that is a great question. And the data certainly comes from doing the boot camp, doing my own courses, learning a little bit on my own, and there you'll learn all of the tech that you need to know. But the business part, so I studied psychology, and the business part was very new to me. And what ended up happening is just using your soft skills. So once you join a company, you will join the data science team maybe, or the tech team, and try to speak as much as you possibly can to the business people. If it's not within a company, then just in your inner circle, you probably know people who have some kind of job in business. Talk to them as much as you can. Ask them about their jobs. Ask them to explain what they're doing. Look at the words that they use. Like I remember in my boot camp, when I first started, I didn't know what a KPI was, which is a key performance indicator, in case anyone else is also in that situation. And you learn this language, you learn these words, and you make an effort to do it, right? So you have empathy, emotional intelligence, listening skills, and then you pick up a little bit of both.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it also starts with an interest in actually having the ability to speak both languages. Some people are just comfortable in either being the communication side of things or the technical side of things. So I guess you went into this knowing you want to be that person that can speak to both teams.
Yeah, I was always clear that I didn't want to be a super technical data scientist where I would have no communications role, because I love doing things like this, right? And I love bringing people together too. So I thought that this would be a great role for me. And so I actively tried to learn about the business side and then also the technical side. If you're asking me that question, I'm assuming that you're also interested. And so I'm sure you'll figure out a way to do it.
Yes. And I think we have time for one last question. It's an interesting one from Bharat. If you're uncomfortable talking or presenting, can we resort to writing and publishing instead?
It depends. So I think if you are very technical and you want to work as a data scientist, for example, really what your goal is when you create something, you want it to be used. So it'll be very frustrating for you if you create something phenomenal and then you're unable to convince the business stakeholders who actually make the decisions to use it. So what you have in a lot of companies is a person like me, where hopefully I'll be able to talk to you and you'll be able to explain to me just privately what it is that you're interested in. And then I'll communicate your interests to the business side. And I'll make sure that everyone knows that it's you who did this, right? I'm not the data scientist, I'm just the communicator. And if you yourself want to be able to communicate, then of course you can write on any kind of platform. You can have a blog. Like if you're going for interviews, that's a really great idea for you if you feel more comfortable for writing. But what medium you use for communication really depends on what your goal is.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. And Ina, I know we are at time, so I really want to thank you so much for helping us close this event. I'm going to see you online. There's still so many questions and comments for you, like you wouldn't believe, from everyone who I think is breaking into data science. So if you have time to hop over to LinkedIn and respond to a couple of those, that would be really helpful.
Absolutely. I am here for you. And if you want, feel free to reach out to me. I promise I'll get to all 500 of you or whatever if you message me.
Awesome. Wow, you're the only one who has promised that. So guys, reach out.
Maybe not today, but sometime this week.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. All right, I'm going to see you online. Righty. At this point, we are done with day 2 of the DATAcated conference. I can't believe we're 2/3 of the way there. And I just want to thank all the speakers for today and for yesterday, for everybody who's joined us. I want to remind you that if you have not officially registered, to go over to storybydata.com, go to DATAcated conference and sign up. That's basically going to let you win some of the raffles that we're giving away, the giveaway prizes. You're going to get my behind the scenes conference blog post that basically tells you what it took for me to plan this event in the past 2.5 months. And it's going to be some photos of what kind of goes on behind the scenes of planning an event. And Yeah, absolutely. I hope you have enjoyed this conference today. Just like yesterday, I definitely would appreciate if you dropped a comment that says DATAcated to let me know that you've gotten value out of this conversations that we were a part of today. What we can expect for tomorrow. Tomorrow is the final day of the conference. I really don't know what I'm going to do with myself once this thing is over, because this conference has consumed my life for the past couple of months. But tomorrow is day 3, the final day. We're going to talk all about data storytelling and the last mile of analytics. Really looking forward to that. Like I said, let me know in the comments if you're enjoying these conversations, and definitely feel free to reach out to me as well. I'm going to go ahead and wrap up, and thank you again for joining.